Hello, everyone. Omni-sensei here with What If I Was Reborn in Marvel as the Monkey King? Part 2. If you enjoy this content, please smash the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Don't forget to check out the original story linked in the description. I hope you enjoy listening to it. Jack sat comfortably, still sipping his tea, as if he hadn't just dismantled an underground empire and forced its leader into submission. The atmosphere in the room had changed. Where there was tension before, now there was determination. Jack exhaled, setting his cup down. Then, he grinned. All right, listen up. From now on, you're going to do your absolute best at making my territory thrive. The subordinates stiffened, glancing at each other. Jack's golden eyes gleamed with amusement. And in return, he spread his arms. I'll give you all of Hell's Kitchen. Silence. Then, a sharp intake of breath. Even Madame Gao, with all her years of experience, looked visibly shocked. All of it, she repeated slowly. Jack nodded lazily. Yep. Every street. Every block. All under you. Alessa furrowed her brows, suspicious. What's the catch? Jack grinned wider. Simple. The more the territory thrives, the more money you make. Madame Gao narrowed her eyes, studying him carefully. Jack leaned back, crossing his arms. Back in my old life, I was a gangster too, you know. That caught everyone's attention. Jack chuckled. People didn't just fear us. They thanked us. They paid us, not out of fear, but out of gratitude. His fingers tapped against the wooden table. We protected them. Made their businesses grow. We cleaned up our own streets, because that meant more money for us. His eyes glinted. And guess what? People wanted to pay us, because life was just better under us. Madame Gao's expression slowly shifted. She had heard many philosophies on power before. Most were built on fear, violence, and control. But this was different. Jack smirked. Now, I only did it on a small scale. But you. He gestured at her. You have an entire network of people at your disposal. Imagine what you could do with all of Hell's Kitchen under you. Madame Gao's eyes gleamed. She wasn't stupid. She saw it now. With this method, her wealth would not just grow. It would multiply. Jack grinned knowingly. I can see that greedy little spark in your eye. Madame Gao chuckled, bowing her head slightly. You are wise, sage. Alessa, however, crossed her arms. And if this doesn't work? Jack tilted his head. Then we try something else. We're criminals, sweetheart. Adaptation is what we do. Alessa narrowed her eyes, but she didn't argue. Jack stretched, yawning. All right, now that that's settled, Madame Gao exhaled. Then, she made a decision. A gamble. She had already sworn loyalty. And if she truly was Jack's right hand, then there was no longer a need for deception. So, she spoke. Truthfully, Sage, I came to New York for something more than power. Jack raised a brow. Oh. Madame Gao's voice lowered slightly. I was sent here to find a dragon bone. Jack froze. For the first time since the conversation started, his casual demeanor vanished. A dragon bone? Jack leaned forward, his golden eyes narrowing. You're just telling me this now? Madame Gao offered a small, almost wry smile. I am your right hand now, Sage. I will not hide anything from you. Jack studied her for a moment. Then, he leaned back, exhaling through his nose. Ha! A beat of silence. Then, Jack shrugged. I already felt some weird energy underground. I just didn't know it was a dragon bone. Madame Gao's entire body went rigid. The subordinates around her tensed. What? Jack blinked. What? You thought I didn't notice? He waved a hand lazily. It's there. Buried somewhere deep. I can sense it. Alessa took a sharp breath. You already knew? Jack grinned. I know a lot of things. But I wasn't exactly looking for a big-ass dragon bone when I got here. Madame Gao leaned forward. Her voice was quieter, careful. Sage, can you tell me where it is? Jack stretched his arms. Then, he stood up. Later. Madame Gao blinked. Later. Jack grinned. You don't need it right now, do you? Madame Gao exhaled. Then slowly, she smiled. As you command, Sage. Her subordinates exchanged glances, stunned. Jack patted his stomach. All right, we're done for now. He grabbed the map from the table. Then, he turned back toward Madame Gao. Oh, one more thing. Madame Gao tilted her head. Yes. Jack grinned. Get me a house. Madame Gao blinked. A house. Jack nodded. Yeah. So I can rest. He twirled his fingers. And so you can give me reports once in a while. Madame Gao's lips curled into a smile. She bowed deeply. Consider it done, Sage. The rest of the subordinates followed suit, bowing. Jack grinned. Good talk, people. Good talk. Then he turned, walking toward the exit. His steps were light, almost bouncing. And as he stepped out into the open air, he began to sing. When the sun shines, we shine together. His voice echoed down the underground hallways. Told you I'll be here forever, Alessa rubbed her temple, already regretting every life choice that led her to this moment. Madame Gao, however, simply chuckled, shaking her head. The storm in New York had just begun. And Jack? Jack was at the center of it. Jack stepped out of the unsuspecting house, stretching his arms as the fresh New York air greeted him. He took a deep breath, exhaled contently, and cracked his neck. Ah, freedom. Then, he glanced around, taking in his surroundings. The city was alive, bustling, filled with its usual mix of traffic, street vendors, and people minding their own business. Jack grinned. All right. Time to be a tourist. With a bounce in his step, he started walking. Not teleporting. Not jumping over rooftops. Just walking. Because for the first time in a long time, he wasn't rushing anywhere. He drifted through the streets, taking in the sights, occasionally stopping by to admire store displays, random street performers, and even a particularly aggressive pigeon fight over a French fry. Then, he felt it. A strange energy. It wasn't just random mystical energy floating in the air. It was familiar. Jack paused mid-step. Then, his grin widened. Charles, huh? He turned toward the general direction of the energy. It was subtle, distant, but if he focused, he could trace it. Was it coming from Xavier's mansion? His golden eyes gleamed with amusement. Oh, let's make a detour, shall we? With that, Jack changed course, whistling to himself as he made his way toward Westchester. Meanwhile, in Germany, inside a sleek black luxury car, Tony Stark was drumming his fingers impatiently against the dashboard. The vehicle was stuck in a roadblock, police officers checking cars one by one. Tony sighed, leaning his head back. I swear, if this is another protest about electric cars ruining real engines, I might just fund an anti-protest protest. Pepper Potts, seated beside him, rolled her eyes. That's not how that works, Tony. Before Tony could retort, a uniformed officer approached the car. Tony rolled down the window. Let me guess. You need my autograph. The officer gave him an unimpressed look. No, Mr. Stark. There was a heist half an hour ago. Tony raised an eyebrow. A heist? The officer nodded. A group of robbers stole a $100 million painting from the Maltese Museum. The getaway vehicle is a red SUV. Tony gestured vaguely. Aha. And do I look like I drive an SUV? The officer sighed. We are inspecting all vehicles in the area, just in case. Thank you for your patience. Tony leaned back, waving dismissively. Yeah. No problem. Are we done? The officer gave a curt nod. Yes, Mr. Stark. You're free to go. Tony smirked. Great. Love what you've done with the country. Big fan of the pretzels. Just as he was about to roll the window back up, a commotion erupted behind them. Loud honking. screaming. The sound of tires screeching against asphalt. Tony glanced at the side mirror. A red SUV was barreling through the roadblock, heading straight for them. Pepper's eyes widened. But Tony was already moving. He reached into a sleek high-tech suitcase on the floor and pulled out a metallic gauntlet, the Mark IV repulsor glove. Before anyone could react, he aimed. Boom! A repulsor blast shot forward, hitting the SUV's front left tire. The tire exploded, the vehicle swerving violently before crashing into a police barricade. The doors burst open, and 5 masked robbers jumped out, brandishing rifles. Tony sighed. And here I thought this was going to be a quiet trip. Gunfire erupted. Tony raised his repulsor, firing another quick blast, hitting one of the robbers square in the chest. The man flew backward, slamming into a parked car. Another robber turned, aiming at Tony, but before he could fire, a police officer tackled him from the side. The remaining 3 opened fire wildly. Tony ducked behind his car door, peeking out. Okay, fine, I'll do all the work. He fired twice more. 1 robber dropped. Another got hit in the leg, collapsing onto the pavement, screaming. The last one tried to make a break for it, running toward the red SUV. Tony grinned. Oh no, you don't. He sprinted forward, sliding across the hood of a police car like a damn action hero, and fired a low-power repulsor shot. It hit the man's back, sending him face-first into the asphalt. The scene went still. Officers moved in, securing the criminals. Tony stretched his arms. You're welcome, Germany. A nearby officer cautiously approached. Mr. Stark, that was highly illegal. Tony ignored him, walking toward the red SUV. He yanked open the trunk. Inside, a large ornate painting. Tony turned to the officer. Let me guess. This is the stolen painting. The officer nodded. Yes. Thank you for your help, Mr. Stark. Tony grinned. Yeah, I know I'm great. Then, the officer's expression changed. But you still need to come with us to the station. Tony's smile froze. What? The officer shrugged. Paperwork. Standard procedure. Tony blinked. Yeah, no thanks. I'll let my German lawyer handle that. The officer raised an eyebrow. You have a lawyer in Germany? Tony slipped on his sunglasses, smirking. Buddy, I can have satellites for every person on Earth if I want to. Having a lawyer isn't that crazy. Then, he turned back to Pepper. Are we late for the meeting? Pepper sighed. Tony, this is your signature move. Tony grinned. What can I say? I like to make an entrance. With that, they got back in the car. The Guarani Insurance Building loomed over the streets of Germany, its polished glass reflecting the afternoon sun. Inside a luxury car, Tony Stark sat, legs crossed, smirking. Beside him, Pepper Potts sighed, rubbing her temples. All right, Tony. Let's try to be professional about this. We're already too late to make a good first impression. Tony waved a hand dismissively. Who cares about first impressions? Pepper narrowed her eyes. Insurance companies do. You know, the people who calculate risk for a living. Tony grinned. You're just mad because I was right about stopping for pretzels. Pepper exhaled sharply. No. I'm mad because you derailed our schedule by getting involved in a museum heist. Tony tilted his head. Hey, in my defense, it wasn't my fault the bad guys chose my roadblock to crash into. Pepper glared. Tony grinned wider. She sighed, composing herself. Okay, let's not argue when they're mad at us for being late. Tony adjusted his tie casually. No one's gonna be mad. Pepper gave him a look. Tony, we're 2 hours late. Tony smirked. Oh, I know. But you said we're meeting with Iveta Guarani, right? Pepper nodded. Yes. She's the heir of Guarani Insurance. Tony leaned back, putting on his sunglasses. Then trust me, Pepper, this will be smooth sailing. You won't even believe it. Pepper folded her arms. How? Tony smirked. With my charm, of course. Pepper muttered under her breath. God help us. The car pulled up to the entrance. Time to work some Stark magic. Inside the Guarani Insurance headquarters, a receptionist led them past security and into the president's office. Tony walked with his usual swagger, Pepper following close behind. As the doors swung open, Tony expected to see Iveta Guarani sitting behind the desk, waiting to chew him out for being late. Instead, Iveta was standing to the side, and seated behind the desk was Michael Guarani, the president of Guarani Insurance. A distinguished older man, in his mid-60s, silver-haired, wearing an expensive navy suit. Tony froze for half a second. Pepper whispered dryly, "So, how exactly are you going to charm an old man?" Tony shot her a side glance. "Watch and learn, Potts." Michael Guarani smiled warmly, standing up. "Ah, Mr. Stark. Finally, we meet in person." Tony grinned, stepping forward. "Mr. Guarani. Sorry for the delay. Traffic, pretzels, and a minor case of vigilante justice." Michael chuckled. "Oh, no apologies necessary. In fact, I should be the one thanking you." Pepper blinked. "Thanking him?" Michael motioned to his secretary. "Bring some drinks for our guests. Beer or coffee, Mr. Stark?" Tony grinned. "German beer, please." Michael nodded. "2 beers, then 1 for me, 1 for Mr. Stark." Pepper sighed. "None for me, thank you." The secretary left the room. Pepper turned back to Michael, her confusion clear. "Mr. Guarani, I have to ask, why are you thanking Tony?" Before Michael could answer, Iveta stepped forward. The young woman had a poised, calculating look, her expression unreadable. "Because today, Mr. Stark stopped a $100 million heist from succeeding." Tony smirked. Pepper's eyes widened slightly. "The Maltese Museum heist?" Michael laughed. "Yes. That stolen painting? It was insured under us." Tony raised an eyebrow. "So what you're saying is, I saved you a ton of money today?" Michael grinned. "Hundreds of millions, actually." Tony turned to Pepper, his smirk growing. He didn't need to say it. His face screamed, "I told you so." Pepper closed her eyes, exhaling. "I hate that you were right." Michael chuckled. At that moment, the secretary returned, carrying 2 cold German beers. Michael lifted his glass. "To unexpected fortune, Mr. Stark." Tony clinked his glass against his. "Cheers to that." And just like that, the meeting was already going smoother than they could have ever expected. The afternoon sun cast a golden glow over the Xavier Institute for Gifted Youngsters. Jack stood outside the front gate, hands on his hips, admiring the massive mansion before him. "Damn. What a big-ass house." He tilted his head, whistling. "Baldy really loaded, huh?" Then, he spotted movement in the distance. A scruffy, cigar-smoking man working on a motorcycle in the garage. Jack's eyes lit up. He raised his hand and waved enthusiastically. "Hey, Wolvie!" From the garage, Logan paused mid-fix. His nostrils flared. A smell hit him, musky, wild, animalistic. A monkey scent. His gaze snapped to the front gate. There, standing like he owned the damn place, was a young man dressed in a flowing black and pink Chinese robe, long hair swaying in the breeze. Logan squinted. What the hell? He grabbed his cigar, took a slow drag, then walked over to the gate. As he approached, he could already tell, this guy wasn't normal. Jack grinned wider. Logan exhaled smoke, stopping a few feet away. "All right, bub. Who the hell are you, and what are you doing here?" Jack tilted his head. Then, dead serious, he asked, "Have you heard about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ?" Logan blinked. Then, his eyes narrowed. "You ain't no damn missionary." Jack sighed dramatically. "Fine, you got me. I'm actually here to see my child." Logan raised a brow. "Who?" Jack kept a straight face. "Sugan." Logan frowned. "Sugan." Jack snickered. "Sugandee's nuts." Then, he broke into full-blown manic laughter. "Keek keek keek." Logan stared blankly. Jack clutched his stomach, still laughing. You lived through both world wars and still fell for a D's nuts joke. Keek. Logan's eye twitched. Then, he froze. What did you just say? Jack grinned. What? That you fell for a D's nuts joke. Logan's snarl deepened. No. The other thing. Jack's grin widened. Then, he tapped his chin innocently. Oh, you mean the part about you living through World War I and II? Logan's entire body tensed. His cigar nearly fell from his mouth. Jack gasped mockingly. Oh no, do you not know? His expression became mischievous. Has your memory not come back yet? Logan took a sharp step forward. His claws didn't come out, but his aura was dangerous. Jack tilted his head, feigning innocence. Oops. Spoilers. Logan gritted his teeth. You're coming with me. Jack held up his hands. Whoa, no need to get violent. I was just about to leave. Gonna go next door and ask the neighbors about Jesus Christ. Before he could move, Logan grabbed him by the collar. Jack blinked. Logan's snarl deepened. You're explainin' everything. In front of Hank and Chuck. Jack sighed dramatically, arms crossed. Wow. People really hate spoilers, huh? Still, he let Logan drag him. He could have easily dodged. He could have outrun Logan in a second. But where's the fun in that? So as Logan stormed through the gates, dragging him along, Jack just pouted. This is totally an overreaction. I mean really, dragging a man by his collar? So primitive. Logan ignored him. Jack sighed again. I should have just stuck with D's nuts jokes. And so, Jack was forcefully escorted into Xavier's mansion. For the first time in history, a D's nuts joke led to an interrogation. Logan stormed through the halls of the Xavier Institute, dragging Jack by the collar. Jack, arms crossed, legs lazily swinging, looked completely unbothered. As they moved deeper into the mansion, students turned their heads, watching the bizarre sight unfold. Jack grinned and waved. Hello, ex-kids. Don't mind your grumpy teacher. He's just dragging an innocent missionary to God knows where. Some students snickered. A few of the younger ones gasped, whispering to each other. Jack noticed one particular student. A bald, young monk-like kid in winter robes. Jack immediately put his hands together, bowing slightly. Amitba. The boy Tenzin bowed back. Amitba. Kurt tilted his head. Wait, I thought he said he was a missionary? Jack grinned. Multitasking, my blue friend. Logan ignored all of it. His grip tightened as he pulled Jack toward Xavier's office. Jack sighed. Man, you are so impatient. Have you considered yoga? Logan grunted. Shut up. The doors to Xavier's office swung open. Inside, Charles Xavier and Aurora Monroe were mid-conversation. They both turned toward the sudden intrusion. Logan unceremoniously dropped Jack onto the floor. Jack landed on his feet effortlessly, dusting off his robe. Logan crossed his arms. Where's Hank? Storm raised an eyebrow. In the med bay. Why? Logan grunted. Call him. Charles picked up his office phone, dialing calmly. Hank, could you come to my office real quick? Hank's voice crackled through the speaker. Sure thing, Charles. Be right there. As Charles hung up, Jack leaned against the desk, smirking. Why not just call him with your telepathic hibby-jibby? Charles smiled. Because people don't like having others in their heads. Even lovers have their secrets. Jack clicked his tongue. Then why the hell were you in my head that day when I was dancing? Charles chuckled. I wasn't in your head. I merely sensed your presence. I thought you were a new, unique case of meta-ability, so I tried to observe from a distance. Jack narrowed his eyes. Makes sense. Still, not cool, Baldy. That was me time. Charles smiled apologetically. I understand. And for that, I do apologize. Storm looked between them, raising an eyebrow. What exactly happened? Jack turned to her, putting a hand over his chest. "Oh, it's nothing, love. Just a bad first impression with dear old Baldy here." Storm's brow raised. But before she could respond, snickering, outside the door, several students had gathered, eavesdropping. Jack's nickname for Xavier had clearly reached their ears. "Baldy," someone whispered. "Oh my God, did he just call Professor Xavier Baldy?" A wave of suppressed laughter followed. Then, a deep voice from the hallway. "You kids shouldn't be snooping around." The students scattered instantly. Hank McCoy stepped inside, adjusting his glasses. "Logan, what's going on?" Logan motioned toward Jack. "Sit down, Hank." Hank sighed, sitting down. "All right, I'm sitting. Now, can someone explain why Logan is dragging around a man in a pink accented robe?" Logan turned to Jack, arms crossed. "Tell them what you said to me." Jack smirked. "That you're primitive?" Logan's eye twitched. "Start from the beginning." Jack shrugged, sitting on the edge of Xavier's desk. "All right, fine. In the beginning, my dad fell in love with my mom. Things about my life, you bastard." Jack grinned. "Oh, you mean the part about you living through both world wars?" Silence. Storm's eyes widened. Hank's brows furrowed. "And Xavier?" His expression turned serious. "Logan?" Xavier asked. Logan was frozen, absorbing the information again. His jaw clenched, hands tightening into fists. Jack watched him carefully. Then, he grinned. "Oh, you guys also didn't know. Interesting." The room tensed. Because if Jack knew something about Logan's past, then Logan's past wasn't just a mystery anymore. It was something buried. Something hidden. And Jack? Jack had just dug it up. The room was tense. Logan's fists were still clenched, his breathing just slightly heavier than normal. Hank adjusted his glasses. Storm's gaze flickered with curiosity. And Xavier? He had a lot of questions. But more than that, he had a feeling that dealing with this young man was going to be difficult. He decided to step back and reset the conversation. With a deep breath, Xavier spoke. "Let's start again, so we can talk more clearly." His voice was calm, measured. He gestured to each person in the room. "I am Charles Xavier. This is Aurora Monroe. Henry McCoy. And the man currently restraining himself from tearing you apart is Logan." Jack smiled, completely unfazed by the tension. He placed a hand on his chest, bowing dramatically. "Jack Ho, at your service." Then, he straightened, clapping his hands together. "I actually just came here to settle my issue with Baldy over there for invading my me time while I was dancing. But now that we've resolved it." He dusted off his black and pink Hanfu robe. "I'll be on my way." Jack turned to leave. "Wait." Logan's gruff voice stopped him. Jack paused mid-step, raising a brow. Logan took a step forward, eyes sharp. "You need to tell me how you know about my past." Jack smirked. "Oh? But why?" Logan's jaw tightened. "Because I don't remember it. And you, some guy who doesn't look a day over 25, somehow do." Jack chuckled. Then, he turned to Logan fully, eyes gleaming. "I'll tell you." Logan's muscles tensed. Jack grinned wider. "But you have to earn it." Logan scoffed. "What the hell does that mean?" Jack pointed at him. "You have to fight me for it." Xavier immediately tensed. "Jack," but before he could finish, Logan grinned. A sharp, feral grin. "All right, bub. Let's go to the training grounds." Jack raised his hands. "Whoa, hold your Tasmanian butt there, Logan." Logan's grin faltered slightly. "Tasmanian butt?" Jack nodded seriously. "Yeah. You know, small, hairy, aggressive, makes growling noises," Storm snorted. Hank covered his mouth, hiding a chuckle. Logan exhaled sharply. "Just say when and where." Jack grinned. "I'll fight you." Logan nodded. Jack paused. Then, he rubbed his stomach. "After I eat." Logan deadpanned. "What?" Jack stretched his arms. Come on, man. You think I'm gonna fight on an empty stomach? That's barbaric. What kind of savage do you take me for? Logan's eye twitched. Jack grinned wider. Let's do dinner first. Then we can fight to the death or whatever. Storm and Hank turned to Xavier, waiting for his decision. Xavier sighed, rubbing his temples. Logan, as much as I know you want answers, we do need the information he has. He exhaled. Aurora, please take him to the cafeteria. Jack beamed. He stood, extending his hand toward Storm in an elegant, noble gesture. Would you kindly lead me to the eternal paradise? Storm tilted her head. Eternal paradise. Jack sighed, shaking his head. Oh, I apologize. I mistook you for an angel. With such beauty, how could I not? Storm blinked. Then, she let out a soft chuckle. You are insane. Jack grinned. And yet, here I am. Alive and thriving. She sighed, motioning for him to follow. Come on. Before I change my mind. Jack happily strolled beside her, hands behind his back. As Jack and Storm walked off, Xavier turned to Logan. Hank crossed his arms, watching Jack leave. Well, he's certainly eccentric. Logan grunted. Xavier folded his hands together. Logan, I know this situation gives you hope, but I want you to be prepared. Logan frowned. Prepared for what? Xavier's gaze was calm, steady. Prepared for the possibility that he might not tell you anything at all. Logan's jaw clenched. Hank nodded. We just want you to know that you have family here. Even if you never regain your memories, you have a new life with us. Logan's head lowered slightly. For a moment, just a brief moment, he looked tired. Then, he exhaled sharply, nodding. Yeah, I know. But his fists were still clenched. Because no matter how much they tried to prepare him, he needed those answers. And if he had to beat them out of that lunatic in pink and black robes, so be it. Jack strode into the cafeteria, flanked by Storm. The moment he stepped inside, dozens of eyes turned toward him. Students of all ages were gathered, divided into their own cliques and circles. Some were eating, chatting, laughing. Others were deep in discussion. But the moment a mysterious man in a pink-accented hanfu walked in beside Storm, silence. Jack paused, placing a hand on his chest. Wow. So many kids. Then, he smiled. It's like walking into a high school cafeteria in an anime. Where's the protagonist with crazy hair? A few students chuckled under their breath. Storm sighed, shaking her head. Just grab some food, Jack. Jack nodded sagely. Right. Energy for the upcoming battle. With that, he gracefully glided toward the food counter. As Jack moved, he took a mental note of the different groups around him. There were distinct cliques, each forming their own micro-kingdoms within the cafeteria. The future leaders, the responsible ones, the ones who train harder than anyone else. Seated at one of the larger tables were the late teenagers, the older boys. At the head, Scott Summers, Cyclops. Posture perfect, eyes hidden behind his signature visor. Always looking like he was one bad decision away from giving a leadership speech. Beside him, his younger brother, Alex Summers, Havoc. Unlike Scott, Alex had a casual confidence, leaning back in his chair, smirking at something Bobby said. Bobby Drake, Iceman, sat across from them, laughing. A guy who had the power of ice but the personality of a warm, friendly golden retriever. Armando Munoz, Darwin, was next to Bobby. Smiling. Calm. Relaxed. He was the kind of guy who never panicked because his power literally made sure he couldn't die. The others at the table were older mutants training under the X-Men. This was the big brother table. The guys who trained the hardest, took on the most responsibility, and were expected to be the next generation of X-Men. Jack tilted his head. Ah, the Future Heroes Club. The protagonist table. Scott glanced at him, then back to his food. Alex snorted. What the hell is that guy wearing? He muttered to Bobby. Bobby grinned. Bro, I think he's cosplaying as a kung fu master. Scott sighed. Logan brought him in. That means we take him seriously. Jack caught Scott's gaze for a moment. Then, he winked. Scott's brow raised, intrigue. And on the other side of the table, the mischievous ones, the energetic energy, the troublemakers, but also the ones with potential. If Scott's table was the big brothers, then this was the little brothers. At the center, Kurt Wagner, Nightcrawler. Excited, chatty, telling a story while animatedly using his tail to gesture. Next to him, Jamie Madrox, Multiple Man, nodding along, until his body split into another copy of himself just to argue with himself. Across from them, Roberto da Costa, Sunspot, smirking, leaning back. He was the kind of guy who looked like he should be on a yacht, sipping a cocktail, but instead, he was here making sarcastic comments. Beside him, Samuel Guthrie, Cannonball, who always looked like he was just about to do something reckless. Then there was Tenzin, the bald, young monk, the outlier in the group. Unlike the rest, he sat quietly, sipping his tea. He was the balance in the storm of chaos around him. Jack nodded to himself. The troublemakers. The next generation of little shits. This was the group that would sneak out past curfew, prank teachers, and still somehow save the day when it counted. Jack grinned. This is my kinda table. Scattered throughout the cafeteria were the students who preferred quiet. Some sat alone, reading books. Others were watching Jack carefully, trying to figure out what his deal was. Jack noticed a few girls whispering about him. He grinned, flipping his hair dramatically. Yes, kids. I am this handsome naturally. Storm raised an eyebrow. Are you just categorizing them in your head? Jack shrugged. No, I'm profiling them so I can manipulate them later. Storm stared at him. Jack grinned. Kidding. Maybe. Storm sighed. Just get your food. Jack grabbed a ridiculous amount of food, carrying his overloaded tray to the younger boy's table. Thump. His tray hit the table, stacked with absurd amounts of chicken, mashed potatoes, cornbread, and a sketchy-looking green smoothie. Kurt blinked. Wow, that is a lot of food. Jack grinned. Guten Abend, my blue friend. Kurt smiled, tail flicking. Ah, you speak German? Jack waved a hand. Nope. I just like pretending I do. Also, a warrior's strength is directly tied to his digestion. Roberto raised an eyebrow. That makes no sense. Jack grinned. Exactly. Tenzin took a sip of his tea. Are you a mutant? Jack paused mid-bite. Then, he leaned forward dramatically. No. The kids leaned in. Jack whispered. I'm actually a government experiment. You ever heard of Project Banana? Jamie blinked. Project Banana. Jack nodded seriously. They injected monkey DNA into a human fetus to create the ultimate warrior. But I escaped. Silence. Then, Tenzin smiled. You are joking. Jack grinned. Or am I? At the older kid's table, Scott glanced over. Bobby leaned toward him. Dude. Who is that guy? Scott adjusted his visor. Logan dragged him in earlier. No idea. Alex smirked. He's sitting with the kids. Thinks he's one of them. Armando shrugged. He acts like one of them. Then, they saw Jack stand up, holding a piece of cornbread above his head. This bread is a symbol of life itself. Soft on the inside, hard on the outside, and best served with butter. The entire cafeteria went silent. Scott sighed, rubbing his temples. Never mind. Logan stood in the doorway, arms crossed. He wasn't laughing. He wasn't annoyed. He was watching. Because Jack wasn't normal. He wasn't just an idiot talking nonsense. There was something behind those golden eyes. Something dangerous. And Logan was going to find out what. One way or another. Jack stood, stretching his arms. His black and pink hanfu flowed behind him as he turned toward Logan, who was still leaning against the doorway. Logan's arms were crossed, his usual scowl in place. Jack grinned, rolling his shoulders. All right, Badger. Let's see if you're really made of adamantium, He paused dramatically. Then with a smirk he added, or just some river clay. Logan exhaled sharply through his nose, shaking his head. You got a death wish, bub? Jack shrugged. I dunno. Depends. Do you count dying of laughter? Kurt, Roberto, and Jamie burst into laughter. Logan grunted. Let's go. Jack grinned, stepping toward him. The younger boys watched Jack go, eyes wide. Kurt leaned toward Roberto. This is going to be interesting. Roberto nodded. Yeah, but my money's still on Logan. Jamie grinned. I dunno, man. The new guy's weird. That means he's dangerous. Tenzin sipped his tea, watching silently. Meanwhile, at the older kids' table, the girls had also taken notice. Anna Marie leaned toward Jean Grey. Come on, Jean, let's go watch the fight. Jean didn't even look up from her tray. No thanks. Anna pouted. Seriously? You don't want to see the Wolverine get his ass kicked by the new guy? Jean sighed, finally looking at her. Logan doesn't lose fights, Anna. Suzanne Chon, sitting across from them, smirked. Then wouldn't that make it even more interesting? If the new guy's crazy enough to challenge Logan, he must have some skills. Petra, leaning back, grinned. Or he's just suicidal. Anna grinned. Only one way to find out. She grabbed Suzanne and Petra by the wrists, pulling them along. Jean shook her head, watching them go. But then, her eyes flickered toward Jack. And for just a second, she felt something strange. A presence. Something not quite human. She shook the thought away and went back to eating. Jack walked with his usual bounce in his step, hands behind his back. Logan strode beside him, silent, focused. Behind them, Storm, Hank, and Xavier followed at a distance. A small crowd of students trailed after them, excitement buzzing in the air. Jack turned his head slightly. Damn, I didn't know we were selling tickets. Logan grunted. They just want to see you get your ass kicked. Jack smirked. Ah, you think they like me enough to watch? Logan rolled his eyes. They arrived at a large metallic door. The entrance to the Danger Room. The advanced, futuristic training facility used by the X-Men for combat simulations. Jack whistled. Fancy. Logan stepped forward, punching in the access code. The doors hissed open, revealing a massive open space inside. The walls were lined with steel panels, sensors, and hidden mechanisms designed to generate combat scenarios. But today, it would be just them. No distractions. No simulations. Just a fight between two warriors. Jack stepped inside, stretching his arms. So what's the rules? No biting? No eye gouging? Logan cracked his knuckles. Only one rule, bub. Try not to die. Jack grinned. Ah, my favorite kind of fight. The students gathered at the observation deck above, looking down. Anna, Suzanne, and Petra leaned against the railing. Suzanne crossed her arms. This is gonna be over fast. Anna grinned. Not if the new guy's actually strong. Storm, Hank, and Xavier watched from the control panel. Xavier folded his hands. Let's see what he's really capable of. Hank nodded. I have to admit, I'm curious. Storm glanced at Logan. Then at Jack, who was still grinning like this was all a joke. I just hope Logan doesn't kill him. Xavier smiled slightly. Oh, I don't think Logan will be the problem here. Storm raised an eyebrow. But before she could question it, the fight began. Silence hung in the air. Logan and Jack stood opposite each other, a few meters apart. The polished metal floor beneath them reflected the harsh white lights above, casting long shadows. Above, in the observation deck, the spectators leaned forward. So no weapons? Anna asked, tilting her head. Storm nodded. Looks like it's just hand-to-hand for now. Bobby smirked. Wolverine's gonna wreck him. Suzanne leaned against the railing. Maybe. But I get the feeling that guy is different. Kurt grinned, his golden eyes flickering with anticipation. Oh, this is going to be fun. Jack rolled his shoulders, cracking his neck. His body was completely relaxed, almost like he wasn't even taking this seriously. His hands raised loosely, fingers slightly curled, swaying back and forth like leaves caught in a breeze. It wasn't a formal stance. It wasn't structured. It was unpredictable. A mix of drunken boxing, mantis style, capoeira, and his own madness. Logan grunted, cracking his knuckles. "You done dancin', bub?" Jack grinned. "Dancing is fighting. Fighting is dancing. The only difference is the rhythm." Logan snorted. "All right then, let's dance." Boom. Logan exploded forward. No hesitation. No testing the waters. Pure, animalistic ferocity. His fists shot forward, aiming straight for Jack's jaw. Jack tilted his head. The punch missed by a hair. Logan followed with a brutal left hook. Jack leaned back, his body bending unnaturally, dodging by mere centimeters. Woo. That was close. Jack laughed. Logan gritted his teeth and kept pressing forward. The room shook with the sheer force of his attacks. Jack moved like liquid. His body flowed effortlessly, twisting, bending, weaving between Logan's attacks. Every time Logan's fists came close, Jack was already gone. His dodges weren't just reflexive, they were playful. He spun on one foot, hopping back, flipping over Logan's strikes. It was as if he wasn't fighting at all, just playing. "He's not even trying," Bobby whispered. Suzanne furrowed her brows. "No, he's reading Logan. Studying his rhythm." Logan lunged again, throwing a powerful straight punch. Jack sidestepped, barely dodging, then immediately snapped his hand forward. Thwack. A light tap on Logan's forehead. Nothing damaging, just a flick of Jack's fingers against his skin. A tease. Logan's eyes narrowed. Jack grinned, wiggling his fingers. Boop. The spectators burst into laughter. "Oh shit, he just booped Wolverine." Jamie Madrox cackled. Bobby nearly choked on his drink. Even Kurt covered his mouth, giggling. Logan snarled. "You little," he lunged forward, doubling his speed. Jack stopped dodging. He flowed into the fight. Logan's next punch. Jack caught it with one hand, spinning with the momentum. He twisted Logan's wrist, just enough to throw off his balance. Wham! Jack's elbow struck Logan's ribs. Logan grunted, but didn't stop. He swung his other fist. Jack ducked under, spinning around his back. Bam! A palm strike to Logan's shoulder. Then, Jack bent backward, dodging a retaliatory strike, twisting into a kick aimed at Logan's ribs. Smack! Logan stumbled slightly. The spectators gasped. Holy crap! He actually made Logan step back. Sam Guthrie exclaimed. Anna's eyes gleamed. Oh, this just got good. Logan exhaled slowly, eyes sharpening. Jack smirked. Getting serious now? Logan rolled his shoulders. No more games, bub. Jack grinned wider. Oh, but I love games. Logan shifted his stance. More grounded. More focused. He wasn't just swinging wildly anymore. Jack felt the change immediately. Logan was watching. Waiting. Adapting. Jack narrowed his golden eyes. Oh, this just got fun. Logan smirked. Jack grinned, wiping a small bead of sweat from his brow. Across from him, Logan was breathing steadily, stance solid, muscles tense. The playful, teasing rhythm from before was gone. Now, Logan was watching. Calculating. Jack narrowed his golden eyes. All right, Badger. Ready for round 2. Logan exhaled. Then, snicked. His adamantium claws extended. Jack's smirk flickered for just a second. Above in the observation deck, the spectators tensed. Bobby whistled. Oh boy. The claws are out. Kurt frowned. This is getting dangerous. Suzanne crossed her arms. Wasn't it already? Petra leaned in. Yeah, but now it's different. Now Logan is done playing. Logan moved. Faster. More aggressive. His claws sliced through the air with deadly precision. Jack dodged, barely. A slash aimed at his throat grazed his cheek, drawing a thin line of red. TCH. Jack hopped back, but Logan was already closing in. Another swipe. Jack ducked. A spin. Jack flipped over it. The claws were deadly, unrelenting. Before, Logan fought with instinct and force. Now, he fought like a hunter. A predator. And Jack? He was the prey. Jack twisted mid-air, flipping over Logan's strike, but then shing. A claw caught his thigh. Blood splattered across the steel floor. Jack winced, landing on one knee. Ow. Damn, those are sharp. Logan was already moving again. Jack leaned back, barely dodging a claw swipe across his chest. Then, he felt it. A sharp, searing pain across his ribs. Shing. Logan's claws raked across Jack's side, tearing through his robe. Jack gritted his teeth, stumbling back. His robe was now shredded, revealing deep, bleeding wounds across his torso. The spectators gasped. Shit, this is getting brutal. Sam muttered. Anna's hands tightened into fists. Should we stop this? Storm shook her head. Not yet. Hank's gaze was sharp. They both still want this fight. Jack clutched his bleeding side, smirking despite the pain. Damn. You really want to kill me, huh? Logan snarled. You wanted a fight. Here it is. Jack exhaled, shaking his head. You sure you want your memories back? Logan's brow furrowed. Jack's golden eyes gleamed. Sometimes the thing you think is a curse is just a blessing in disguise. Logan's teeth clenched. You don't know me. Then, he charged again. Jack sighed. Then, his hand reached for his left ear. The golden earring dangling from it shimmered. With a flick of his fingers, he pulled. And in an instant, the earring expanded. A staff materialized in his grip, growing to its full size. The Rui Jin Gubang. Jack twirled it effortlessly, the air whistling with its weight. His stance shifted. Gone was the loose, playful unpredictability. Now, he was rooted. Powerful. Like an unstoppable storm. Logan skidded to a stop, eyes narrowing. Jack smiled. All right, Badger. Let's get serious. Logan lunged. Jack swung. Crack. The staff smashed against Logan's ribs, sending him flying. Logan grunted, rolling across the floor, his healing factor already kicking in. Jack didn't wait. He leapt forward, spinning mid-air, bringing the staff down like a hammer. Boom. Logan rolled away just in time, the floor denting from the sheer force of the impact. The students stared in shock. Holy shit. Suzanne whispered. Roberto swallowed. This guy's on another level. Logan rose, blood dripping from his mouth. His wounds were healing, but slower because of the sheer amount of injuries. Jack grinned. Hurts, doesn't it? Logan spat blood. Not as much as it's gonna hurt you. He rushed in again. But Jack was different now. He let loose. Boom. The staff slammed into Logan's shoulder. Crack. A follow-up strike crushed into his knee, forcing him down. Jack was relentless. Every time Logan healed, Jack hit him harder. Chunks of flesh peeled from Logan's body, only to regrow seconds later. The room became a blur of red and silver. The floor was stained with blood. Logan's. Jack's. It didn't matter. Because the fight had become something else now. Something primal. The boys watching were silent. They had never seen Logan this injured. The girls, usually intrigued by Jack's charm, were pale with horror. Petra covered her mouth. This is insane. Suzanne's eyes were sharp. He's punishing Logan. He's not just fighting anymore, he's breaking him. Anna's face was pale, hands gripping the railing. Someone really needs to stop this. Jack twirled his staff, blood dripping from its surface. His robes were shredded, deep claw wounds across his arms and torso. He exhaled, gazing at Logan, who was still trying to get up. Logan's body was covered in open wounds, healing rapidly, but the pain never stopped. Jack sighed, shaking his head. Still think you're ready for the truth? Logan growled, breathing heavily. I don't care how bad it is. I need to know. Jack spun his staff, stepping forward. His golden eyes gleamed. Blood dripped onto the cold metallic floor. Jack stood over Logan, his chest rising and falling steadily. Logan? He was barely moving. His healing factor worked overtime, but every time his body tried to regenerate, Jack would tear him apart again. Chunks of flesh peeled from Logan's body, wounds reopening faster than they could close. But Logan kept fighting. His claws still lashed out, his teeth still bared in rage. Jack sighed. Then, his fingers traced a symbol mid-air. A golden, glowing rune formed in front of him. Jack's voice dropped to a whisper. Body freezing spell. The air hummed. A pressure rippled outward. And Logan froze. Mid-attack. His muscles locked, his body suddenly immobile. His healing factor stopped. Jack's golden eyes glowed as he twirled his staff. Then, he laughed. A low, unhinged, manic cackle. Keek keek keek. He raised his staff. And then, he struck. Wham! Jack's staff slammed into Logan's ribs, shattering them instantly. Crack. Another blow. His arm twisted unnaturally. Another. His shoulder caved in. Another. His stomach burst open, blood spilling out. Logan couldn't scream. He couldn't heal. He couldn't move. The students watching from above froze in horror. Jesus Christ, Bobby muttered, pale. Anna's fingers dug into the railing. Kurt swallowed, gripping his rosary. This wasn't a fight anymore. This was punishment. Scott Summers' hands clenched into fists. His visor glowed red. Jack raised his staff again, still grinning. That's enough. Scott fired. A burst of ruby-red energy shot toward Jack. Jack whirled, just in time. Clang. His staff met the optic blast mid-air. The force sent Jack skidding backward, feet digging into the floor. Smoke rose from his staff's surface. Jack tilted his head. Then, he laughed again. Oh, that was fun. Scott gritted his teeth. The fight is over. Jack twirled his staff lazily, still grinning. All right, all right. He spun the staff once, then flicked it. The body freezing spell shattered. Logan gasped, collapsing to the floor, his body finally allowed to regenerate. Jack turned away. His robes were shredded, stained with blood, his own and Logan's. He tilted his head, looking down at Logan. And then he spoke. You're too caught up in what lies behind the hill. He turned toward the exit. His voice was softer. That you don't realize you're already standing on a mountain of gold. Then, he walked away. His laughter echoed behind him. And in the center of the danger room, Logan just lay there. Silent. Breathing. Thinking. The danger room doors hissed open. Jack stepped out, his black and pink hanfu in tatters, stained with blood, both his and Logan's. His golden eyes flickered under the fluorescent lights as he strolled into the hallway, stretching his arms like he had just finished a casual sparring session. Behind him, the X-Men descended into the danger room, rushing to check on Logan. Jack glanced over his shoulder, smirking. Good call stopping the beating, kid. Scott Summers turned to face him, expression unreadable. You're not even that much older than me, Scott muttered. Jack snorted. Maybe not. But experience? That's another story. Scott stayed quiet. Jack tilted his head, watching him. Then, his smirk widened. Well, good luck with the consequences of stopping us. Scott stiffened. Jack shrugged. Hopefully, Logan sees you as a mature leader after this. Jack paused, then added with a chuckle, and not just some wannabe trying to prove himself. Scott's jaw tightened. His eyes flickered toward Logan, still lying on the ground, unmoving. The others hovered around him. Checking. Whispering. Worrying. Scott exhaled, shoulders tense. He wondered, had he made the right choice? Logan never says surrender to Jack. He never said he wanted to stop. Was this what it meant to lead? To step in, even when no one asked you to. To take the blame, even when it wasn't yours to carry. Scott gritted his teeth, deep in thought. Jack watched him for a second longer, then turned away. As Jack stepped into the hallway, he saw 3 figures waiting for him. Charles Xavier, Aurora Monroe, Hank McCoy. They stood just outside the exit, arms crossed, faces unreadable. Jack raised an eyebrow. What? No round of applause. Silence. Jack tilted his head. Then, his face turned serious. Why didn't you stop the fight, Baldy? Xavier stayed calm. Logan personally asked us not to meddle with his resolve, especially when it comes to anything involving his past. Jack whistled. Ha. And yet, you let Scotty take the blame for stopping it. Xavier smiled slightly. Scott is 19. It's time for him to lead his own team and make his own decisions. Jack stared. Then, he laughed. Damn. So I'm just an unpaid guest teacher for your little school, huh? Hank adjusted his glasses. That's one way to look at it. Jack grinned. Then he turned to Aurora, leaning in slightly. And if you, my angel, ever need a tour of Hell's Kitchen, call me. Aurora raised an eyebrow. Jack smirked. You know what all the women say, once you go Jack, you never go back. Aurora chuckled, arms still crossed. I'll consider it, after you stop being weird. Jack laughed, stepping back. Well, that's one way to reject a handsome man, I guess. With that, he strolled away, humming a song to himself, still grinning like he hadn't just nearly beaten Logan to death. Back inside the danger room, Logan slowly sat up. His wounds were already healing, but his mind was still racing. Jack's words lingered. You're too caught up in what lies behind the hill, that you don't realize you're already standing on a mountain of gold. Logan exhaled sharply. The kids crowded around him. Logan, are you okay? Bobby asked. Kurt grinned, trying to lighten the mood. Don't die or your bike will be mine. Logan snorted. TCH. Don't come near me, kids. I still need a bath after all this. He shook his head, wiping blood from his face. But as the others helped him up, his thoughts remained. Jack knew something. And Logan wasn't done with him yet. Not by a long shot. Jack walked through the mansion halls, his steps slow and deliberate. His robes were in ruins, torn, slashed, and soaked in dried blood. His skin, once marred with open wounds, had sealed shut as if his body simply decided it was done bleeding. But the stains remained, red streaks across his arms, neck, and legs. Everywhere he passed, eyes followed him. The students who hadn't seen the fight stared in horror. What the hell happened to him? Someone whispered. In the common area, Kitty Pryde and Jubilee sat on a couch, chatting and sharing snacks. Jubilee was mid-bite into a Twizzler when she spotted Jack. Her jaw dropped. Kitty followed her gaze, and nearly choked on her soda. Jack walked past, looking like he had crawled out of a war zone. Dude, is that the guy Logan dragged in earlier? Jubilee whispered. Kitty nodded slowly. Yeah, and now he looks like that. They both watched in shock as Jack casually strolled by, humming to himself. Jubilee leaned closer to Kitty. What the hell did they do in there? Sacrifice him to the evil gods. Kitty shuddered. I think he won. Jubilee stared. Then what does Logan look like? Neither of them wanted to know. In the training room, Remy LeBeau, Gambit, and Calvin Rankin Mimic sat at a table, locked in a tense arm wrestling match. Their hands shook, muscles straining, neither giving an inch. The tension was thick. The students watching held their breath. Then, Jack walked past. Dried blood. Torn robes. A lazy smirk on his face. Remy's grip loosened for just a second. Bam. Calvin slammed his hand down, winning instantly. Remy blinked. Murd, what in the hell? Calvin stared after Jack. What happened to that guy? No one had an answer. Jack continued walking, unfazed by the attention. Then, he saw Tenzin. The young monk stood by the hallway, his hands folded in front of him. Jack paused, then gave a small bow. Amit Ba. Tenzin returned the bow, but concern flickered in his eyes. Amit Ba. Are you all right? Jack grinned. I am now. That fight was more refreshing than a 5-star spa. Tenzin frowned. Jack chuckled, patting the kid's head before continuing on his way. Jack turned a corner and nearly ran into Jean Grey. She stopped, blinking as she took in his bloody, torn-up appearance. "Are you okay?" she asked, concern evident in her voice. Jack grinned. "Why? You worried about me, Bird?" Jean raised an eyebrow. "Bird?" Jack tilted his head, studying her. His golden eyes gleamed with something unreadable. He chuckled. "Yep. Definitely a bird." Jean folded her arms. "I'm serious. I'm sure Logan didn't mean to use all of his power on you." Jack laughed. "Didn't mean to? Oh, sweetheart." He leaned in slightly, lowering his voice. "I won." Jean frowned, confused. Jack looked like he had been ripped apart and barely stitched back together. If this was him winning, then just how bad did Logan lose? But before she could question him further, Jack winked and strolled past her, humming to himself. Jean watched him go, unease settling in her stomach. Jack stepped out into the cool night air. The front doors of the mansion closed behind him. The wind felt good against his bruised skin. Jack stretched, rolling his shoulders. All right. Time to head home. Then, he froze. His eyes widened. His smug grin twitched. Wait. He turned on his heel. His golden eyes flickered with panic. "I forgot to take something." So far, Iron Man's middle finger? Taken. Daredevil's baton? Taken. Wolverine's? Nothing. Jack's hands went to his head. "Arg, I'm so stupid." He had wasted a perfect exit. He vanished like a mysterious badass. And now? Now, he had to go back inside like a dumbass to take his self-taken reward. Jack groaned. Okay. Think. Then, his golden eyes landed on something. A shiny, black and chrome motorcycle. Sitting right there in the garage. Keys still in the ignition. Jack's smile returned. "Oh, Logan, buddy. You really shouldn't leave your keys lying around." He strolled toward the bike, whistling. Hopped on. Start the engine. Twisted the throttle. The engine roared to life. Jack grinned. Perfect. Jack rolled forward, easing toward the front gate. Just as he passed the mansion grounds, a large figure stepped into his path. A broad-shouldered man, arms crossed, towering over him. Pyotr Nikolaevich Rasputin, a.k.a. Colossus. Jack slowed the bike. Pyotr turned, offering a polite nod. "Good night, comrade." Jack nodded back. "Good night, metal dude." Pyotr blinked. Then, his eyes flickered to the motorcycle. His brow furrowed. Wait. That was Logan's bike. His Russian accent thickened. "Hey, who are you?" Jack's grin widened. Then, he twisted the throttle. Vroom. The bike shot forward. As he sped past, Jack shouted, "I'm Logan's dad." Pyotr stood there, confused as hell. Then, he scratched his head. How does Logan have a father, younger than him? The night air whipped against Jack's face as he tore through the streets of New York on Logan's stolen motorcycle. He was giggling like a little girl, wind howling past him, completely oblivious to the chaos unfolding in the city. But while Jack was reveling in his petty theft, the rest of New York was burning with speculation. On every screen in Times Square, on every news broadcast, on every television in homes, bars, and street corners across the city, Wilson Fisk appeared. Standing behind a podium, dressed in a black suit, his broad shoulders hunched slightly, his face the very picture of distress. Behind him stood a row of his most trusted political allies, business partners, and even a few city officials. A carefully orchestrated display of legitimacy. The cameras zoomed in as he spoke, his deep voice carrying a calculated weight. "Friends, colleagues, fellow citizens, I stand before you today, not in anger, but in profound fear." The city listened. Fear for what this world is becoming, and fear for what it means to try and do good within it. The screens flickered between Fisk's face and pre-prepared images, photos of his supposed charity work. Clips of Fisk shaking hands with community leaders. A shot of him standing before a newly constructed homeless shelter, smiling. For too long, I've poured my heart and soul into building this city. From hospitals to shelters, fighting for reform, creating my foundation to help the people. I believed, truly believed, that by doing what's right, we could make a difference. His voice dipped lower, quieter. But recently, I've been met with a wave of malice. The word rang through the air. The reporters leaned in. The citizens watching from their homes felt a chill. Fisk lowered his head, exhaling shakily. Then he looked back up, his expression raw, vulnerable. I don't understand it. I don't understand the vitriol, the accusations, the attempts to tear down everything I've worked for. It feels like I'm being punished for trying to help. A pause. He licked his lips, his face lined with exhaustion. The cameras zoomed in, capturing every flicker of emotion. I'm not a perfect person. I've made mistakes, I'm sure. But my intentions have always been pure. A sharp inhale. And now I'm scared. I'm scared that if I continue, if I keep trying to do what I believe is right, this malice will only intensify. He looked up, straight into the cameras, straight into the hearts of the citizens watching. I need your help. I need to know that there are still people out there who believe in good. I need to know that I'm not alone in this fight. His voice cracked, just slightly, perfectly timed. Because, honestly, I don't know if I can continue without your support. The city held its breath. I don't know if I can keep trying to do good, if the world refuses to protect those who try. Another pause. Then, his voice softened, almost defeated. I just want to make a difference. And I'm afraid that's becoming impossible. The broadcast ended, but the damage had been done. New York erupted. Social media exploded. Politicians, news anchors, and ordinary citizens began debating the speech immediately. Some felt sympathy. Fisk has done a lot of good for this city. Who would want to hurt him? He sounds like a man who's genuinely afraid for his life. Maybe we've been too harsh on him. Others weren't so easily fooled. Oh, please. This is classic manipulation. He's playing the victim while still holding all the power. You don't become a billionaire and then cry when someone fights back from the way you became a billionaire. Fisk had successfully shifted the conversation. No longer was he the tyrant. Now he was the victim. And somewhere in a fancy penthouse, sipping whiskey, Wilson Fisk smiled. Because his trap had been set. And New York had walked right into it. Meanwhile, Jack was tearing through the city streets on Logan's motorcycle, completely unaware that he had just been declared an enemy of the city. His laughter echoed through the night. The bike's engine roared beneath him, tires screeching as he took a sharp turn. A police siren flashed in the distance. Jack grinned. Ha! Catch me if you can, suckers! He revved the engine and vanished into the neon-lit streets, oblivious, carefree, and completely unaware of the storm that was about to come. The wind screamed past him, tearing through his robes as Jack weaved between cars, dodging police sirens in the distance. His prize, Logan's motorcycle, rumbled beneath him, its engine purring like a restless beast. Jack grinned, his golden eyes flickering in the rearview mirror. The cops were persistent, but they weren't him. A sharp turn. Another alley. In a blur of movement, he tilted the bike sideways, sliding underneath a truck just as it passed. The patrol cars screeched to a halt, blocked by traffic. Jack didn't look back. Within minutes, he was gone. He finally rolled into the warehouse, the metal doors groaning as he entered his claimed territory. His new employees, formerly Volkov's men, glanced up from their stations. Some of them still weren't sure what to make of him. He was young, unpredictable, insane. But after yesterday, they all knew one thing. Jack Ho was the real deal. One of the bigger guys, arms crossed over his chest, smirked. That stolen bike. Jack hopped off, flipping the keys in his hand. Mine now. No one argued. Jack stretched, rolling his shoulders. Then, he plucked a strand of hair from his head, biting it in half. In an instant, dozens of clones materialized, each standing at attention. They looked to Jack, awaiting orders. Jack sighed. Same deal as yesterday. Patrol the streets. The clones scattered, leaping into the darkness, their movements fluid, calculated. Jack watched them go, then ran a hand through his hair. Something felt off. Something wasn't sitting right with him. So, he did what he always did when his thoughts got too loud. He sought the sky. Jack soared across rooftops, moving like a shadow against the neon glow of New York. He wasn't sure where he was going. His mind was too cluttered, too heavy. Then, he saw it. The Chrysler Building. Jack grinned. Empire State can wait. Let's go with the classic Art Deco beauty tonight. With a final effortless leap, he landed on one of the towering steel beams. The city stretched beneath him like an ocean of lights, endless and restless. The wind howled, tugging at his robes. Jack crossed his legs, placing his staff across his lap. Then, he closed his eyes. And for the first time that night, he let himself think. His thoughts drifted through the day's events. From his deal with Madame Gao, to his claim over Hell's Kitchen. Was this truly the best choice? His old philosophy, the one he used back in his past life, was simple. Power isn't about ruling people. It's about making them need you so much they can't live without you. That's what he was doing now. Making his territory thrive. Making sure the people leaned on him, not the government. But this world? This world wasn't like his past life. This world had gods. Monsters. People who could rewrite reality with a snap of their fingers. Could he really play the same game here? Could he really win? Jack's jaw tightened. Back in his past life, the biggest threats were rival gangs, corrupt cops, and territorial disputes. Here, he was in a world where a man in a flying suit could wipe out a small country with missiles. Where a meta-human with a thought could erase him from existence. Where a being like Thanos could snap his fingers and delete half of reality. What good was territory control in a world like this? What good was power, if it could be taken in an instant? Jack exhaled sharply, tilting his head up. Then, he thought about his golden gaze. At first, it had seemed like just another tool. A way to see through people. To know the truth of their sins, their past, their darkness. But now, it felt like a curse. When he looked at Logan, he had seen everything. The sins stacked on his soul like a mountain of corpses. The weight of every kill, every regret, every failure. Jack had judged him instantly. But was that fair? Logan didn't even remember those sins. And yet, Jack had condemned him for them. Just like Charles had judged Jack by snooping while he was dancing. Jack hated people who tried to control or categorize him. And yet, here he was, doing the same damn thing. His fingers curled into fists. Judgment was all he had. It was his gift. His curse. He had spent his entire life surviving by reading people, knowing exactly what kind of person they were just by watching their movements, their speech, their actions. But his golden gaze? It made that process instant. And that scared him. Because the day he relied on it completely would be the day he lost his humanity. Jack exhaled, his breath slow and deliberate. He was starting to see the trap. The easy way out. It would be so easy to just rely on his gaze. To judge people instantly. To discard them based on what he saw. But wasn't that what he hated most? Wasn't that why he despised authority? Because they judged before understanding? Because they saw people as numbers, statistics, burdens, rather than humans? And yet, here he was, dangerously close to doing the same thing. Jack clenched his jaw. Damn it. I hate when life forces me to be introspective. He had to be careful. Because if he let himself fall into the trap of easy judgment, then one day, he'd look in the mirror and not recognize himself anymore. The wind howled around him, cold and biting. The city pulsed below, alive with energy. Jack opened his golden eyes, staring down at the world beneath him. He had a lot to think about. A lot to process. But one thing was certain. He wasn't done yet. This city? This world? It was still his playground. He just had to decide what kind of game he wanted to play. For now, he would wait. Watch. Learn. And when the time came, he would make his move. Jack smirked. All right, Marvel World. Show me what else you got. And with that, he closed his eyes and meditated once more. The morning sun cast long golden rays across Hell's Kitchen. The city was awake, but something was different. Agent Phil Coulson adjusted his tie, standing outside his black SUV, sipping coffee. Beside him, his junior field agent, Agent Thompson, flipped through a series of photos on his tablet, eyes gleaming with excitement. "Sir, I swear, it was the craziest thing I've ever seen," Thompson said, unable to contain himself. Coulson exhaled slowly. He had seen a lot of crazy things in his years at S.H.I.E.L.D. Aliens. Meta-human. Experiment gone wrong. But this was something new. He glanced toward the neatly arranged streets of Jack Ho's territory, a place that should have been crawling with crime. But instead, it was thriving. And that was the problem. Coulson's eyes scanned the butcher shop across the street. The door was unlocked. Wide open, in fact. That, in itself, was an impossibility in Hell's Kitchen. Not locking your shop here? You might as well leave an invitation for looters and gangsters. In most places of Hell's Kitchen, stores had 3 to 5 different locking mechanisms just to keep themselves safe. Some even hired guards just to get through the night. But here, in Jack Ho's claimed territory, not a single store was locked. Not one. Coulson's eyes narrowed. Something was happening here. Something big. Coulson turned to Thompson. "What did we find on him?" Thompson paused, rubbing the back of his head. That's the thing, sir. We didn't find anything on him." Coulson's grip on his coffee cup tightened slightly. "Nothing." "Nothing, sir." Thompson pulled up his tablet, scrolling through the overnight reports. "We ran his face through every major government and private security database. FBI, CIA, NSA, Interpol, even the goddamn DMV." He turned the screen toward Coulson. No matches. No records. No ID. No history. It's like the guy just popped into existence yesterday. Coulson exhaled slowly. That was a problem. Because nobody just appeared out of nowhere. Not in this world. Not with S.H.I.E.L.D. watching. Coulson rubbed his temple, deep in thought. This wasn't just some low-level street meta. This was someone with power, presence, control. And the worst part? S.H.I.E.L.D. had no idea where he came from. "There's more," Thompson continued, swiping to another report. "Jack can multiply." Coulson's eyes flickered toward the screen. The grainy night vision footage showed Jack plucking a strand of hair, biting it in half, and then, more Jacks. Each identical. Each moving independently. Coulson frowned. "We've seen something like this before, haven't we?" Thompson nodded. "Yeah. One of Xavier's kids, Jamie Madrox. He called himself Multiple Man. But he's barely in his teens. Jack Ho." Thompson zoomed in on the image. "He's fully grown. And his clones? They're organized." S.H.I.E.L.D. had dealt with Jamie Madrox before. But Jamie's clones? They weren't like this. They didn't move with precision. They didn't coordinate like a trained unit. Jack's clones? They patrolled the streets like an elite task force. They weren't just duplicates. They were extensions of him. That made him a whole different kind of problem. "Oh, and one more thing," Thompson added, pulling up another image. Coulson looked at it. It was Jack's staff. Long, ornate, and expanding. In the images, the staff shifted in size, growing from the size of a baton to the length of a street pole. "It's magical," Thompson said, awed. Coulson sighed. Of course it was. Because this wasn't complicated enough already. Coulson took a slow sip of his coffee. Then finally he spoke. "All right. Let's break it down." Jack Ho appeared out of nowhere. He has no records in any database. He has powers similar to an established metahuman, but far more refined. He wields a staff that seemingly bends the laws of physics. He took over Hell's Kitchen without a single shot fired. And now? Now, Wilson Fisk was screaming to the media about an unknown threat attacking the city. Coulson exhaled. This was about to become a massive headache. Coulson finally closed his tablet, staring at the sunrise. The city was waking up. And he had decisions to make. S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't care about gang wars. They didn't care who controlled Hell's Kitchen. What they did care about was data. They needed complete control over the information surrounding Jack Ho. Because if this guy could really do all this, if he could spread like a virus, fight like a god, and disappear without a trace, then S.H.I.E.L.D. needed contingencies. And fast. Coulson turned to Thompson. Put a classified tag on all this information. Need to know basis only. Thompson blinked. You think he's a threat, sir? Coulson took another sip of coffee. I don't know what he is yet. And that's the problem. We need to know before someone else does. Thompson nodded, typing away on his tablet. Coulson sighed. His morning had barely started. And already? Jack Ho was making his life a nightmare. The first thing Jack felt was warmth. Not the scorching, suffocating kind. The gentle kind. The kind that kisses your skin instead of burning it. Jack opened his golden eyes. The morning sun hovered over New York, blanketing the city in gold. The wind whistled softly around him, rustling his hair. For a brief moment, Jack didn't think. He just breathed. Then, his stomach growled. Loudly. Jack sighed. Yep. Back to reality. He stretched, rolling his shoulders, feeling the ache in his body from yesterday's fight with Logan. His clothes were still tattered, stiff with dried blood. And judging by the way even the wind seemed to avoid him, he reeked. Jack sniffed himself. Oh damn. He winced. I smell like a battlefield corpse left out to rot. He rubbed his chin, contemplating. I could change clothes, but I like this hanfu. Another sniff. His own eyes watered. Okay, maybe I should consider a bath first. Then, he remembered something. Gao. Did she hold up her end of the deal? Jack's grin slowly widened. Let's find out. Jack leapt down from the Chrysler building, landing effortlessly onto a rooftop. Then another. And another. The city was waking up beneath him. People hurried to work, taxis honked, street vendors set up their stalls. Jack watched them, humming to himself. Despite all the chaos and filth, there was something human about it all. Something real. Jack scratched his head. Still don't have all the answers, but that's fine. He smirked. I've got time. And with time, he'd figure it out. Even if it meant combing through hay to find the damn needle. As Jack entered Chinatown, the first thing he noticed? It sucked. This wasn't like his past life's Chinatown. That place had been alive. Colorful, bustling, a beautiful mess of tradition and crime intertwined. This was sad. The streets were cracked. The lanterns were faded. The people moved with caution, not energy. Jack clicked his tongue. Damn. What a disappointment. Then, he felt it. Eyes. Watching. Tracking. Gao's subordinates. Jack didn't stop walking. Instead, he waved dramatically. Hello, underpaid lackeys. I come in peace. A man in a dark suit stepped forward, clearly trying to maintain composure. Mr. Ho. Captain Lackey. Jack nodded. Nice to see you. Hope you had a fulfilling breakfast. The man blinked, confused. Please follow me. Jack grinned. Lead the way, detective side character. The man twitched but said nothing, turning on his heel. Jack happily skipped after him. They walked through the heart of Chinatown, stopping in front of a traditional Chinese moon gate. The gate was old but well kept, a stark contrast to the rest of the neighborhood. Jack tilted his head. Oh. Fancy. Is this where I get initiated into a cult? A familiar voice spoke. No, but I could arrange that if you'd like. Jack grinned as Alessa Giomi, bride of 9 spiders, stepped out. She was as sharp and poised as ever, her expression unreadable. She bowed slightly, extending a hand. In it, a key. Your residence, as promised. Jack took the key, spinning it between his fingers. Nice. You even wrapped it in invisible gift paper. Alessa's brows twitched. You'll find the address engraved on the tag. Jack glanced at it. A smirk crawled across his lips. Oh, a house in Chinatown? Damn, Gao must really like me. Alessa remained silent. Jack stepped closer, staring at her intensely. Or was it you? He wiggled his eyebrows. Did you fall for my overwhelming charm, Alessa? Are you secretly in love with me? Alessa's expression didn't change. Then, she spoke in a deadpan tone. If I was in love with you, I would have already killed myself. Jack burst into laughter. Keek keek keek, oh I like you, Spider-Girl. Alessa crossed her arms. You are the most unbearable person I have ever met. Jack grinned. Give it time. I grow on people. Like a really attractive fungus. Alessa sighed, rubbing her temples. Are we done here? Jack twirled the key again, then pocketed it. Yep. I'll check out my new crib, MTV style. First, I need a bath. Alessa nodded. Good. You smell like a battlefield corpse left out to rot. Jack blinked, then pointed at her. Hey, that's what I said earlier. Alessa turned and walked away, muttering. I hate that I understand how your brain works. Jack watched her go, smirking to himself. He looked at the key once more. Then, to the rising sun above him. All right then. He cracked his neck. Let's see what home looks like this time around. And with that, he strolled off toward his new domain. Jack stood at the entrance of his newly acquired home. His golden eyes gleamed as he took in the sight before him. A large traditional Chinese courtyard house, with sloping roofs, intricate wood carvings, and a peaceful aura that clashed horribly with the chaos of Hell's Kitchen. The front featured a beautiful koi pond, complete with a wooden bridge. Beside it, a goddamn gazebo. Jack tilted his head, rubbing his chin. A pond, huh? A body of water designed specifically to make fish feel important. He stepped onto the bridge, peering down at the koi swimming in lazy circles. Ah yes. The majestic koi. The only creatures in the world whose entire life purpose is vibing. He knelt beside the pond, staring intensely at the fish. I respect it. But also, if I die in this house, one of you better reincarnate into a dragon. Otherwise, this pond is useless. The fish stared back. Unbothered. Jack shrugged and stood. I'll take that as a maybe. Next, the gazebo. Jack stepped inside, running a hand across the wooden beams. Ah, a gazebo. Nature's VIP section. He sat down on the stone bench, looking out at the courtyard. Then, he sighed dramatically. Imagine this. I'm sitting here, sipping tea, watching the sun rise as I contemplate the meaning of life. But in reality, I'd probably be watching pigeons fight over breadcrumbs like it's a goddamn gladiator match. A single pigeon flew by. Jack pointed at it. I'll bet $5 on you, little guy. The pigeon ignored him. Jack stood, stretching. All right, next stop on the I Own This Place Now tour. The main house was massive. Sliding doors. Ornate wooden furniture. Red and gold decor that screamed, a rich old man probably died here. Jack walked through the halls, his bare feet making no sound. He ran his fingers along the intricate carvings on the wooden pillars. Ah yes. Traditional craftsmanship. Carved by the hands of forgotten artisans. A reminder that no matter how skilled you are, someone richer than you will always claim your work. He opened a random door, peeking inside. A study. Tall bookshelves lined the walls, filled with dusty old tomes and calligraphy scrolls. Jack nodded. Ah, a room dedicated to knowledge. Also known as the place I will never willingly enter. He shut the door. Next room, a bedroom. A massive bed sat in the center, draped in silk sheets. Jack flopped onto it immediately. The mattress was soft. Too soft. It feels like sleeping on a cloud. Which sounds great, until you realize clouds are made of water vapor and you'd fall right through. He rolled onto his back, staring at the ceiling. What is a home, truly? Is it a house, or is it the feeling of belonging? Silence. Then, Jack nodded to himself. Nah, it's definitely just a house. But a house with a koi pond and a gazebo, so we're already winning. He sat up, stretching. All right, let's get down to business. Jack walked over to the central room, placing the map Madame Gao had given him on a table. The parchment unfolded, revealing a detailed layout of Kingpin's territory, complete with markings on each commander's area. Jack squinted at it. 6 commanders, each with their own little kingdom. That means 6 heads to chop off before I reach the final boss. He tapped his chin. Or, I could just blow up the whole tower. But that seems a little excessive. Even for me. It needs to be more theatrical. He leaned back, lost in thought. Then, his eyes drifted to his own reflection in a polished bronze mirror. His clothes were a mess. The black and pink hanfu was tattered, barely holding together, covered in dried blood and dust. Jack sighed. Man, I really liked this outfit. He ran a hand over the torn fabric. If only there was a material strong enough to survive my kind of fighting. Then, he froze. His eyes lit up. Wait a minute. He snapped his fingers. I'm in Marvel. Jack grinned, his mind racing. There had to be a material strong enough. Vibranium. Adamantium. You are you. PIM-enhanced nanofiber. Hell, even some of Tony Stark's bullshit fabric tech. All he had to do was find it. Or steal it. Preferably steal it. Jack grinned wider. Alright then. If S.H.I.E.L.D. or the gods themselves have the fabric I need, I'll just take it. But first, Jack needed to stop smelling like a war crime. He grabbed his clothes, tossing them aside. Then, he walked toward the massive bathroom. It had a deep stone tub, opening the faucet to let the heated water run. Jack smirked. A bath fit for a king. Or, in my case, a homeless kung fu lunatic. He stepped inside, sighing as the warmth seeped into his muscles. For the first time in days, his body fully relaxed. Jack leaned back, closing his eyes. Tomorrow? He'd start his hunt for the perfect fabric or headhunting, and he is not looking for jobs. But for now, he was going to enjoy this moment. Because even a self-proclaimed monkey sage deserved a little luxury. Jack stepped out of the steaming bath, shaking the water from his long hair like a dog. His body was fresh, his skin smooth, no sign of the wounds he'd taken last night. No gashes from Logan's claws. No bruises from their vicious exchange. It was as if the fight had never happened. Jack flexed his fingers, rolling his shoulders. The feeling was exhilarating. He had fought Wolverine, and loved every second of it. Logan was one of the few people who could push him in terms of combat knowledge. For the first time in a while, Jack didn't have to hold back as much. He relished it. But as his golden eyes met his own reflection in the mirror, his expression shifted. His grin faded into contemplation. Was he strong enough? Sure, he could beat Logan in a straight fight. But there were gods out there. Celestials. Cosmic horrors. Beings beyond comprehension. Even if this world didn't know it yet, Jack did. Somewhere out there, forces existed that could erase him with a flick of their wrist. Jack stared at himself. A man wrapped in power, yet still just a man. Then he grinned again, shaking his head. No need to worry for now. He had time. He could still get stronger. And he would. Jack opened the closet, raising a brow. Inside, a row of traditional Asian robes, hanfus, and hanboks neatly folded. Gao, you nosy old woman. You knew exactly what I'd like, huh? His fingers brushed over the fabrics before stopping on a black and gold hanbok. Sleek. Regal. Just dramatic enough. He threw it on, tying the sash lazily. Then, he headed to the kitchen. Jack opened the fridge and blinked. Neatly arranged were raw meats, vegetables, rice, and traditional ingredients. Everything is fresh and prepped, waiting to be cooked. Jack grumbled. What do they think I am? Some kid on a diet. Then, his eyes landed on a different shelf. A single box of Captain Crunch cereal sat there, untouched. Jack's grin returned. Ah, there we go. The breakfast of warriors. He grabbed a bowl, poured the milk first, because he is a lunatic, then dumped the cereal in. Jack took a seat at the table, map spread out in front of him, TV playing in the background. Each commander's territory was marked. Some handled entertainment, casinos, clubs, money laundering. Others were straight-up hellspawn, running human trafficking, drug rings, and black market organ trades. Jack munched thoughtfully, eyes scanning the names. To kill or not to kill, that is the question. Which ones could be useful? Which ones deserved the blade? His golden gaze lingered over the map. Then, something on the TV caught his attention. The screen showed a news segment, replaying Wilson Fisk's speech from last night. Jack had been too busy giggling over his clone artistic corpse arrangement to watch it before. Now, he listened. Fisk stood before the cameras, looking devastated. His voice is heavy, yet calculated. Friends, colleagues, fellow citizens. I stand before you today, not in anger, but in profound fear. Jack raised a brow, spoon midair. For too long, I've poured my heart and soul into building this city. From hospitals to shelters, fighting for reform, creating my foundation to help the people. Jack snorted. Oh, this bastard is good. But recently, I've been met with a wave of malice. Fisk paused dramatically. Jack tilted his head. Oh wow, you almost sound like the victim here. I don't understand the vitriol, the accusations, the attempts to tear down everything I've worked for. Jack's fingers curled around his spoon. It feels like I'm being punished for trying to help. His grip tightened. The ceramic bowl in his hand cracked slightly. I need to know that there are still people out there who believe in good. Jack's jaw clenched. I don't know if I can keep trying to do good, if the world refuses to protect those who try. I just want to make a difference. The bowl shattered. Jack's hand crushed the ceramic effortlessly, milk and cereal spilling across the table. The room was silent except for the hum of the TV news. Then, Jack laughed. A low chuckle at first. Then, a full, manic, gleeful burst of laughter. Kick. His shoulders shook as he grinned at the screen, eyes glowing. Oh, Fisk. You slimy little bastard. You're good. Real good. Jack leaned back, dragging his tongue across his teeth. His gaze flicked back to the map. Every name, every commander under Fisk, he had considered taming some of them. Recruiting. Integrating them into his rule. But now, it was too late. Wilson Fisk had sealed all their fates. Every single one of them. Jack cracked his knuckles. His grin widened into something wild. No need to tame bastards who willingly do your bidding, Kingpin. His voice dropped, a low growl vibrating in his throat. You just signed every one of them up for a 6 feet under retirement plan. He chuckled again, standing up, stretching. And, of course. He turned back to the TV, eyes gleaming. That includes you. The morning light poured through the blinds of a modest office space, casting long shadows over stacks of legal documents. The sign outside read, Nelson and Murdoch Attorneys at Law. Inside, Foggy Nelson sighed, rubbing his temples as he watched Matt Murdoch run his fingers over a stack of Braille documents. The scent of cheap coffee and old paper filled the air. Foggy leaned back in his chair, stretching. You know, Matt, I gotta ask, why do I let you rope me into these things? Matt didn't look up, his fingers gliding over the raised text. Because, Foggy, your whole approach to life is think later, act now. Not true. Matt grinned. Really? Like that time you started studying Punjabi just to impress that girl in college. Foggy snorted. Okay, first off, that was years ago. Second, it worked. For like 2 whole dates. Matt chuckled. Still not letting that go. Not until I can see again. They both laughed. But then, Foggy sighed, shaking his head. Jokes aside, I really think we need to hire a secretary, man. Matt raised a brow. Already? We've only won one case. Yeah, and we're drowning in paperwork. Foggy gestured toward the mess of files stacked on their desks. If we don't get some help, we're gonna spend more time sorting cases than actually fighting them. Matt leaned back in his chair, tapping his cane against the floor. We're still in the early phase, Foggy. It's not exactly wise to hire someone when we can barely afford rent. I don't care. I'm going to a headhunting office. You can thank me later. Before Matt could argue, Foggy grabbed his coat and walked out. Matt just shook his head, chuckling to himself. Classic Foggy. With Foggy gone, Matt turned his focus back to the cases in front of him. One by one, he sorted through them. And one by one, he realized something. Nearly every single case was tied to Kingpin, either directly or through some tangled web of crime, bribery, and corruption. Matt exhaled sharply. This was why they had set up their firm in Hell's Kitchen. Because people here needed them. Because no one else would take these cases. He wanted to help. He had to help. But Fisk? Fisk was a monster. Not just physically. Not just in the streets. Fisk's power wasn't just in his fists. It was in the courts, in the system. Matt had fought him as Daredevil. But if he lost to him as a lawyer? If he let these cases slip through his fingers? It would be disastrous. Fisk had money, influence, connections. The world outside New York didn't know what he truly was. But Matt did. And if he failed? Hell's Kitchen would drown. He pressed his fingers against his temples, exhaling. Then, his mind drifted. To the man he fought that night. The one who held back against him. The one who moved like a phantom, fought like a demon, and laughed like a madman. And the one who stole his billy club. Who the hell was that guy? His movements weren't normal. His muscles barely tensed before a strike. His entire being radiated something unnatural. Meta-human? Something more? Matt clenched his fists. No time to think about him right now. He had a war to fight. Both in the streets. And in the courts. And it was only getting started. Marco Crucetti sat in the back seat of a black, heavily tinted SUV, rolling a gold-plated lighter between his fingers. The engraving on it read CRUSETTI, in bold, capital letters. A family name that had once stood for power, tradition, and honor. Now, it stood for whatever the hell Marco wanted it to stand for. His father? Dead. Killed by Wilson Fisk during his rise to power. His siblings? Dead. Murdered when they resisted Fisk's takeover. And Marco? Marco chose to survive. No, he chose to thrive. Unlike his idiot siblings, he saw which way the wind was blowing. So he bowed. He kissed the ring. And now? Now, he was one of Kingpin's 6 commanders. The proud ruler of his own little kingdom within Hell's Kitchen. But Marco? Marco was hungry. And greed? Greed was a beautiful thing. As the SUV rolled down the street, Marco's mind raced. News had just come in. Madame Gao just loosened her control of her human trafficking monopoly. And Marco? Marco had a piece of that pie too. He ran his own operations. Human trade, illegal organ markets, high-end exclusive services. But now that Gao was out, the rest of the hand would try to take the scraps. And Marco? Marco wasn't going to let them. He could expand. He could cut out the middlemen. He could take everything. Because in the end, it wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about honor. It was about who was smart enough to take what they wanted before someone else did. And Marco had already proven he was smarter than most. His lips curled into a smirk as he lit a cigarette. But then, the car suddenly stopped. Marco jerked forward in his seat, nearly dropping his cigarette. The hell? Outside, his driver sat frozen, hands gripping the wheel. Marco's eyes snapped to the windshield. There, standing dead center in the road, was a man. A young man. Dressed in black and gold traditional Asian robes. Long dark hair draped down his back. A lazy grin on his face, like he wasn't standing in the middle of a goddamn street blocking an entire convoy. The golden sunlight made him glow. Like a specter out of a legend. Marco felt something cold slither down his spine. The man wasn't moving. He just stood there, smiling. Marco's fingers twitched. His gut, the same gut that kept him alive when his whole family got slaughtered, whispered a warning. This wasn't normal. This wasn't good. But Marco didn't listen to gut feelings. He listened to power. And right now, he had 5 SUVs full of men and firepower at his disposal. So he did what any arrogant crime boss would do. He snapped at his driver. What the hell are you waiting for? Get out there and chase that lunatic away. His men immediately scrambled out of the cars, weapons drawn. The man in the robe. He just smiled wider. Like he was waiting for this. Marco flicked his lighter, taking a long drag of his cigarette. Time to teach this asshole a lesson. The streets were quiet. Too quiet. Jack stood still, unmoving, his black and gold robe swaying slightly in the breeze. The sun hung high, casting long shadows over the convoy of black SUVs. The driver stepped forward, face twisted in annoyance. He was an older man, rough around the edges, the kind of guy who had been in this business long enough to know when someone was a threat. And yet, looking at the unarmed young man standing before him, he only felt irritation. Dumbass, get the hell out of the way. Jack didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't react. He was as still as a lake untouched by wind. Then, he spoke. Are these all the men under Crucetti? The driver frowned. What the hell are you saying? Just move, bitch. Jack's golden gaze met his. Not until your boss hands over all his territory. Silence. The driver's breath hitched. It clicked. The face. The robe. The eerie confidence. His stomach dropped. Sir. The driver bolted back to Marco's SUV, knocking on the window with urgency. Sir, I think that's the guy who took over Volkov's territory. Marco stopped flicking his lighter. Volkov? The bear-like mutant lieutenant under the tracksuit mafia? Marco scoffed, leaning back. That dumb bastard? Volkov's territory could have been taken by a group of determined ants if they wanted it. This wasn't a concern. He exhaled a cloud of smoke, disinterested. Let Orsino handle it. The driver relayed the order over the walkie-talkie. A different car door opened. And from it, a giant stepped out. Orsino was a wall of muscle. At least 7 feet tall, built like a slab of concrete, with arms thick as tree trunks. A mutant enforcer under Marco, known for his raw strength and brutality. His skin had a rough, stone-like texture, and his movements were slow but deliberate. Orsino cracked his neck, then rolled his shoulders. Boss say you go. Jack stayed where he was. His grin widened slightly. Me no go until your stupid boss is dead. Orsino's heavy brow furrowed. He grunted. Orsino can't let stupid man hurt boss. Jack tilted his head. Then, he smiled. And when Jack smiled, it was never a good thing. If a man walks into a forest and punches a tree, does the tree punch back? Silence. Orsino blinked. Marco blinked. Even the driver blinked. What the hell is he talking about? One of the goons muttered. Jack sighed dramatically, shaking his head. It means, you dumb brick, that you should have run when you had the chance. The air grew heavy. Orsino snarled. And then, he charged. The air trembled. A 7-foot half-ton mass of raw power, surging forward like a battering ram. The ground beneath his feet cracked with each stomp. His massive fists clenched, veins bulging as he threw everything into his charge. A single hit, that was all it would take. One clean strike, and this cocky bastard in robes would be nothing more than a bloody smear on the pavement. But Jack? Jack was already gone. Whoosh. Like a whisper in the wind, he stepped aside, effortlessly slipping past the charge. Orsino's fist cut through empty space, the sheer force of it sending shockwaves through the air. Jack didn't even look at him. He was casually examining his fingernails. Then, he whistled. Oh, Orsino skidded to a stop, nostrils flaring. Marco narrowed his eyes from inside the SUV. He didn't see it at first. Didn't register why Orsino's fist never connected. But now, he was paying attention. Orsino charged again. Jack sidestepped. Another charge. Another effortless dodge. Over. and over, and over, until even Marco realized something. Orsino hadn't landed a single hit. Not one. Orsino growled, rage boiling in his veins. This was impossible. His opponent was nothing but a flimsy little man in robes. He should have been crushed already. And yet, he couldn't touch him. His breathing turned ragged. His muscles coiled. And then, his body began to change. Bones shifted. Tendons stretched. Skin hardened. His arms swelled even larger, thick cords of muscle bulging unnaturally. His face elongated, his nose flattening, his jaw widening. Two massive, curved horns erupted from his skull. His eyes turned red. His breath came out in hot, heavy snorts. A bull. Orsino had transformed. Marco watched, unimpressed. Finally, Jack grinned. "Oh, you're a bull now? That makes this even funnier." Orsino lowered his head, horns gleaming. Then, he roared and charged again. Jack pulled out a red silk cloth from his sleeve. He twirled it between his fingers, then snapped it open like a matador. "Let's dance, Toro." Orsino charged, faster, stronger, deadlier. But Jack was having the time of his life. Whoosh. Sidestep. The bullman rammed straight into one of the SUVs, crushing the hood like paper. Marco's men barely leaped out of the way. Orsino snorted, shaking the car off. Jack spun the red cloth, taunting. "Come on, big guy. You're embarrassing the bovine community." Orsino snarled, hooves scraping against the pavement. Then, he lunged again. Jack sidestepped, again. And this time, Orsino rammed straight into a group of Marco's own men. Ag. 3 were sent flying. One smashed through another car windshield. Another got caught on Orsino's horn, flailing as he was carried along. Jack was laughing. "Oh no, you're hurting your own guys. TSK, TSK. What a bad bull." Orsino snorted, eyes burning with rage. Jack twirled the red cloth again, tilting his head. "Tell me something, Orsino. Do you know what separates a bull from a steer?" Orsino snarled. Jack grinned. "Steers don't have balls." Orsino roared and charged again. Jack flipped over him, casually landing on one of the cars. The bullman, too blinded by rage, crashed straight into another SUV. More of Marco's men dived out of the way, screaming. More bodies hit the floor. More cars were turned into scrap metal. Marco was starting to realize he had messed up. Jack wasn't just winning. Jack wasn't even trying. Orsino panted, his massive frame heaving. He wasn't just battered. He was humiliated. His horns dripped with blood, not Jack's but his own men's. His rage had cost them half their forces. Jack stood atop the last intact SUV, twirling his red cloth lazily. "You still want to keep going, big guy?" Orsino huffed. His legs trembled. His vision blurred. Jack smirked. "I'll give you one last charge. Make it count." Orsino roared, one final desperate burst of energy surging through his veins. He thundered forward, horns aimed straight for Jack's heart. Jack simply dropped the cloth and vanished. Orsino's charge didn't stop, didn't slow, didn't swerve. It went straight toward Marco's car. Marco's eyes widened. "Oh, you gotta be fuck." Crash. The bullman slammed into Marco's SUV at full force, flipping it over. Metal shrieked. Glass shattered. The car rolled. Once. Twice. Then silence. Dust settled. Marco's car lay on its side, wrecked beyond recognition. Jack landed gracefully a few feet away, dusting off his sleeves. He glanced at the wreckage. Then, he whistled. Damn. Someone call AAA. This man's car just committed insurance fraud. The wreckage smoked, metal groaning under its own weight. Blood stained the asphalt, pooling beneath crushed bodies and shattered glass. Yet, Jack stood untouched. His robes, now splattered with red, clung to him like war paint. His smile hadn't wavered. If anything, it had only grown. Across the battlefield, Marco's surviving men had regrouped, shaking off their terror, their instincts screaming at them to flee. But fear? Fear was a funny thing. It made desperate men reckless. And reckless men died fast. Shoot him. Now! One of the goons shouted, raising his weapon. Guns cocked. Fingers tightened on triggers. Jack watched, amused. Then, he laughed. A deep, manic chuckle that echoed through the battlefield like a funeral bell. Pfft, keek keek keek. Oh man, this is gonna be fun. Jack tilted his head, then slowly reached for his left ear. His fingers brushed against his dangling earring. And then, he pulled. A gleaming rod extended from the small charm, stretching, growing, twisting into something monstrous. Rui Jingu Bang. The legendary staff of the Monkey King. The gold caught the sunlight, shimmering like liquid fire. Jack spun it once, then slammed it against the pavement, sending cracked spiderwebbing beneath his feet. The air trembled. And then, Jack moved. The first shot rang out. A bullet whizzed toward Jack's skull. And yet, it never reached him. Clang. The staff elongated, intercepting the bullet midair, sending it ricocheting into the skull of the man who fired it. Jack didn't stop. He darted forward, moving through the ranks like a ghost. His staff moved with him, twisting, bending, stretching. One moment, it was a spear. The next, a wrecking ball. He swung downward, flattening a man's ribcage like stepping on a soda can. Another charged him from behind, machete raised. Jack sidestepped, twirled his staff, and in one seamless motion, took the man's legs out from under him. He didn't even give the guy time to scream before the staff slammed into his skull, caving it in. Gunfire rained. Bullets zipped through the air, aimed at Jack. But it was pointless. Either he dodged, or the staff intercepted. Each blocked bullet rebounded, carving through flesh that wasn't his. The shooters became the shot. The attackers became the corpses. One by one, they fell. And Jack was dancing through it all. His steps were light. His movements effortless. His grin never-ending. Orsino, still frozen in place, snarled. His massive bull-like body trembled as he fought against the unseen force locking his muscles. Jack strolled toward him, twirling his staff. He hummed a tune, his voice casual. Damn, you really do look like a fine-cut steak. You think if I grill you up, you'd taste good. Orsino's red eyes burned with rage. Jack leaned in, voice a whisper. Nah, I bet you'd be all tough and chewy. No good beef comes from stress, you know. Then, Jack raised a single finger. And snapped. The body freezing spell shattered. Orsino roared, lunging, desperate, feral, mindless. Jack didn't move. Didn't flinch. Didn't blink. His staff shot forward, shrinking midair, before slamming directly into Orsino's kneecap. Crack. A sickening crunch echoed. Orsino collapsed, howling in pain. Jack grinned wider. And then, he began taking him apart. Piece by piece. A swipe here took off chunks of flesh. A jab there crushed bones. Jack circled his prey, carving into him like an artist sculpting marble. Orsino's roars turned to gurgles. His form, once a towering bull, was reduced to nothing more than a quivering pile of meat. By the end, he was unrecognizable. And Jack stood over him, expression unreadable. Then he sighed. Bullfighting show's over. No refunds. Orsino didn't respond. Because he couldn't. Jack wiped his staff against his sleeve side, and turned toward the last man standing. Marco Crucetti, the last survivor. His SUV was wrecked, overturned, body half-trapped beneath the door. His men? Gone. Slaughtered. The carnage stretched behind him like a blood-soaked tapestry. And Marco had no idea. Help! He gasped, voice hoarse. Somebody, get me out of here. Footsteps approached. And then, hands grabbed him, pulling him free. Marco staggered up, wheezing, dust and blood smeared across his suit. Thank you. I'll give you a raise, then he saw. Jack stood before him, face covered in blood. His robe soaked in red, as if he had bathed in carnage itself. His golden eyes gleamed. Marco shrieked. Jack grinned, voice light. I don't want your raise, though. His staff rested against his shoulder. Dripping. Waiting. Marco felt something crawl up his throat. A terror he hadn't known since he was a child. And in that moment, he realized something. Jack wasn't a man. He was a force of nature. A storm in human skin. And Marco was nothing but a corpse still waiting to die. Vote 3 left the wreckage still smoldered, blood soaking into the asphalt. A graveyard of Marco Crussetti's ambition. And at its center, Jack. One hand rested lazily on his staff, the other stretching toward Marco's head. Marco barely had time to breathe before, bam. Jack slammed his skull against the twisted metal of his wrecked SUV. Marco gasped, his vision exploding in white-hot agony. His face scraped against broken glass, skin peeling. The metal groaned under the force of impact. Jack's grin never wavered. Listen, fish face. His voice was light. Casual. Almost friendly. I'll give you one chance. One singular chance to confess all the heinous shit you did. Marco sobbed, blood dribbling from his lips. I don't know what you're talking about. Jack laughed. A deep, rolling, unhinged laugh that bounced through the ruined street like a carnival of madness. Then, he stopped. His expression turned deathly serious. Slowly, he reached toward Marco's left hand. Marco watched in horror as Jack's fingers gently wrapped around his index finger, like a farmer picking fruit. And then, he plucked. Crack. Rip. Ag hey. Marco's screams tore through the night as blood gushed from where his finger used to be. Jack tilted his head, his golden eyes gleaming. Come on now. I even gave you a hint. It rhymes with hum. He pretended to think, tapping his chin with Marco's severed finger. What rhymes with human traffic? Oh wait, I know. You messed up, you sick pathetic prick. Marco's eyes widened in sheer terror. And no. It was all Madame Gao, he wailed, grasping at straws. She monopolized it. I never wanted to. Crack. Jack plucked another finger. Aga. Marco screamed louder, body convulsing in pain. Jack rolled his eyes. Jesus, man. You scream like a dying cat. He tossed the second severed finger over his shoulder. Let me explain something to you, Marco. Jack crouched, his bloodied robes pooling around him like a demon kneeling at the gates of hell. His voice lowered, dripping with venom. I already checked every single piece of information I have on you. You're scum. Marco sobbed, chest heaving. Jack leaned in closer, his breath warm against Marco's ear. You didn't just profit from Gao's monopoly. Oh no. Jack giggled, his fingers dancing along Marco's trembling chest. You found a loophole. You little worm. You forced victims to sell their own organs for cheap before shipping them off, then further sell their body for entertainment. Marco's breath hitched. Jack grinned wider. And that. His golden eyes burned. That is something I will never forgive. Marco tried to speak, but his words choked on his own terror. Jack sighed dramatically. Don't worry. I won't just kill you outright. He tapped Marco's chest, fingers moving with eerie precision. Marco's body seized. His organs clenched, one by one. His lungs, his stomach, his intestines, each one began to collapse in on itself. Slowly, painfully. Marco twitched, mouth open in a silent scream. Jack watched, fascinated. I've always wondered, he mused. If you squeeze a person's liver hard enough, will they piss themselves before they die? Marco shook violently, his face contorted in agony. His veins bulged, sweat pouring from his brow. His bladder gave out. Jack snickered. Guess that answers that. But before Jack could finish crushing the rest of him, Marco died. Just like that. Jack clicked his tongue. Damn pussy. Couldn't even last all the way through. He rose to his feet, shaking the blood off his hands. Then, he turned his gaze to the sky. A hollow smile spread across his lips. And then, he called. Jack's voice rang out, soft, yet unshakable. I don't know who's listening. The air around him grew thick, heavy. The world itself seemed to pause. Even the shadows stretched toward him, as if drawn by something ancient and unseen. Jack tilted his head back, golden eyes shimmering. But I know this much. His grin widened, sharp as a blade. Every single bastard involved in human trafficking? They're mine. Their souls? Mine. Their screams? Mine. And if some divine reaper, some death god, some cosmic judge, thinks they can claim these pieces of shit before I'm done. Jack chuckled darkly. And then, his expression turned stone cold. Then I'll follow them into the afterlife myself. The air around him trembled. A promise. A threat. A declaration. Jack sighed, rolling his shoulders. The smell of blood thickened the air. The wind carried the metallic scent across the ruins of Crusetti's convoy, mixing with the acrid stench of burning rubber and shattered pride. Jack exhaled, wiping his face with the back of his sleeve. The blood smeared across his cheek, staining his long dark hair as if he had just stepped out of a crimson baptism. He sighed. Then, he reached up and plucked a single strand of hair. Biting down, he split it into several thinner strands. And like smoke catching fire, clones burst into existence around him. Identical. Perfect. Sinister. Jack stretched lazily. All right, boys. Clean the Crusetti territory. The clones scattered, leaping across rooftops, diving into alleyways, blending into the shadows like phantoms unleashed upon the city. Jack watched them go, then cracked his neck. This was just the beginning. Jack gripped his staff, Rui Jingubang, and twisted it once. The small, deceptively thin rod responded instantly, stretching, growing, expanding until it towered like a monolithic pillar above the ruined street. Jack hopped onto it, balancing effortlessly as it continued to extend. The sky was darkening now, the city lights flickering to life below him. And then, he moved. Like an artist painting a masterpiece, he carved into the city itself. The staff traced a massive arc across the Crusetti territory, glowing golden as it dragged through the air. With each sweep, an unseen force rippled outward, embedding into the very foundations of the streets, buildings, and alleys. And then, Jack laughed. A low, guttural chuckle. Then it grew into something monstrous. Unhinged. An echo of lunacy that reverberated through the city like thunder. Keek keek keek. His voice carried across the rooftops, shaking windows, vibrating through the bones of those who dared listen. And then, he snarled. His golden eyes gleamed. His voice, razor-sharp, dripping with venom. You might have the media. You might have the politicians. You might have the rats whispering in the dark for you. Jack grinned. But your sins will be revealed. And then, he growled, deep and guttural. Lust. The golden circle surrounding the Crusetti territory flared to life, sealing it just like Volkov's. The barrier shimmered, pulsating with power, a silent declaration that this land no longer belonged to the weak-willed bastards who once claimed it. Jack descended from his staff, landing smoothly onto the pavement below. The Crusetti men, those who were scattered around the territory, stood frozen. Their territory had been taken, claimed, devoured. Panic set in. The men hesitated. Then, one of them turned, bolting toward the nearest exit. Then, stopped. Because, standing there, blocking the door, was Jack. Or rather, one of his clones. They turned toward another street. Another exit. But there was another Jack. And another. And another. Even above them, on the rooftop, more clones stood watching. Eyes gleaming. Smiling. Nowhere to run. Nowhere to hide. The main Jack exhaled through his nose, rolling his shoulders. Then, he spoke. All right, here's how this works. If you surrender, my clones will tie you up nice and proper. Maybe you live. Maybe you get to see another sunrise. He grinned wider. If you resist, though? The staff twirled in his grip, glowing faintly. Then I make sure you join Marco in whatever hellhole he's screaming in right now. Silence. Then, one by one, men started dropping their weapons. The first to kneel was grabbed by a clone and restrained instantly. Then another. And another. But some chose differently. A few desperate idiots went for their guns, knives, anything they could find. Jack sighed. All right, then. The clones moved. And the slaughter began. As the clones handled the bloodshed, Jack yawned, stretching his arms. His eyes wandered over the ruined battlefield, then landed on an old Mexican man standing in front of a convenience store. The man was gripping a broom, staring at Jack with wide, unblinking eyes. Jack tilted his head. Then, he smiled. Hey, old man. The Mexican store owner flinched. Jack walked up casually, hands in his sleeves. You got a mop or a broom? The old man was too shocked to question him. He simply, numbly, handed Jack the broom he had been holding. Jack took it, nodding in appreciation. Gracias, amigo. And then, he began sweeping. Blood. Guts. Shattered bones. All cleaned up as if it was nothing more than spilled milk. Jack hummed to himself, then started singing softly. Wake me up inside, he spun on his heel, sweeping debris into a neat little pile. Call my name and save me from the Dearark. Behind him, the last of the Crucetti men fell, either dead or tied up. His clones handled the cleanup. Jack was just enjoying the song. With a smile on his blood-stained face, he kept sweeping, waiting for the next fun thing to happen. And in the distance, the city of New York trembled. Because the storm known as Jack Ho had only just begun. A dark room, dimly lit by blue monitors flickering with classified information. Nick Fury stood at the center of it all, fingers steepled as he listened. That voice. That damn voice. Echoing once again. Declaring another territory. Carving another piece of New York under his claim. Bastard giving me more work. Fury muttered, rubbing his temples. He wasn't particularly invested in gang wars. But this wasn't normal. Territory shifts happened in the underworld all the time. Silent. Discreet. With backroom deals, betrayals, and blood spilled in the shadows. This was like some mythological warlord announcing his conquests for the whole city to hear. Not just once. Twice. Fury sighed, turning away from the monitors. He needed more intel. Who the hell was Jack Ho? And more importantly, what the hell did he want? The afternoon sun filtered through the windows of Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. Inside, students went about their usual routine. Training. Silly match. Gossiping about each other nonsense. Then, that voice again. It rippled across the city like a declaration from the heavens. And once more, Jack Ho claimed another piece of New York. At the cafeteria, Tenzin stiffened. He turned to Rogue, his expression uneasy. Are you sure we're safe here? He asked, voice carrying a slight tremble. Rogue paused, caught off guard. Her eyes darted toward the other students, some murmuring amongst themselves, others shifting uncomfortably. Then, she forced a smile. Well, at least he ain't claimin' our school. It was meant to be a joke. But Tenzin didn't laugh. And deep down, Rogue wasn't entirely sure if she meant it. A conference room. Thick cigarette smoke hung in the air. The New York mayor sat at the head of the long polished table, surrounded by his advisors, legal teams, and most notably, Wilson Fisk. Fisk had remained quiet throughout the discussion. Until now. Until that voice echoed once again. Until Jack Ho declared another piece of New York his own. The tension in the room became suffocating. The mayor, already on edge, slammed his fist onto the table. How dare that lunatic claim my New York City? He bellowed. Silence. Then, a shift in atmosphere. A chill creeping up the mayor's spine. He realized, too late, that he had misspoken. Because across the table, Wilson Fisk turned his head. Slowly. Deliberately. His gaze, heavy. Suffocating. The mayor's rage fizzled out instantly. He swallowed thickly, throat dry. I mean your territory specifically, Mr. Fisk. Fisk didn't blink. Didn't respond. Just stared. And in that moment, the mayor remembered. Jack Ho wasn't the only monster in this city. Captain George Stacy sat at his desk, skimming through the latest case files. The faint hum of the precinct filled the air, detectives typing up reports, officers chattering over coffee, the occasional ringing phone. But George? He felt like he was staring at a goddamn joke. A stack of half-assed investigation reports lay before him, all pertaining to the same bizarre incident, the mass execution of Kingpin's men, their bodies arranged in a crude FU right outside Fisk Tower. The case had come across his desk a few hours ago. He'd expected resistance. But this wasn't just resistance. This was surrender. The detectives barely put any effort into it. Their reports were vague, their conclusions flimsy. It wasn't incompetence. It was intentional. They had already given up. And George Stacy knew why. Because this case was in Hell's Kitchen. It had always been a lost cause. A crime-ridden dump that everyone, including the NYPD, pretended wasn't their problem. It had been like this since before he even joined the force. And despite years of rising through the ranks, despite becoming captain, despite all the work he had done, Hell's Kitchen had not changed. It was still the same rotting corpse of a neighborhood, crawling with criminals that the city had long abandoned. George ran a hand through his hair and sighed. Damn it. He wanted to give his all to this. But he needed help. He needed someone who shared his vision. Someone who hadn't already given up. But who? Before he could dwell on it further, a voice rang out. Not in his precinct. Not from his radio. But from everywhere. A booming declaration, echoing across New York, just like several days ago. Another claim. Another piece of Hell's Kitchen falling into the hands of the unknown metahuman. The precinct fell into a stunned silence. Some officers froze mid-coffee sip. Others glanced at each other, whispering nervously. George stared at the ceiling as if he could glare at the source of the voice itself. Then, he muttered, "Shit. My investigation isn't even done, and he's already claiming another part of the city." Detective Ruiz, one of the precinct's veterans, let out a dry chuckle. "Well, Cap, looks like Hell's Kitchen has a new landlord." Some of the other officers snickered. George rubbed his temples. "Doesn't this bother any of you?" Ruiz shrugged. "What's there to be bothered about? We already lost Hell's Kitchen to Fisk years ago. Now it's just a different asshole sitting on the throne." George gritted his teeth. "That doesn't make it right." Ruiz exhaled through his nose, leaning against his desk. "Cap, I respect you. I do. But you've been in this city long enough to know how this works. Hell's Kitchen isn't just a problem, it's a black hole. You put effort into it, it'll just swallow you whole." George scowled. He knew that. Hell, he had seen good cops try and get buried for it. But was that really it? Was that all they could do? Just roll over and let criminals decide the fate of an entire neighborhood? His fist clenched on the table. No. He refused to believe that. Because if they didn't fight for this city, then who would? Ruiz sighed, noticing the fire in his captain's eyes. "All right, Cap. Let's say we actually dig into this. What's the plan?" George exhaled, staring down at the reports again. Then, he made a decision. "We start by figuring out who the hell Jack Ho really is." Ruiz blinked. "Jack Ho." George nodded, tapping a document on his desk. It was a printed report from an anonymous informant. One name kept appearing in connection to the recent takeovers. A name nobody could find in any system. No birth certificate. No social security number. No arrest records. Nothing. Jack Ho was a ghost. George tapped his fingers against the desk. "I don't believe in ghosts." Ruiz chuckled. "Well, Cap, looks like we're about to chase one." Jack mockingly wiped his forehead with the back of his hand, letting out an exaggerated sigh. The broom in his grip lazily pushed the last bits of flesh and blood into a neat little pile. Phew. Hard day's work. He leaned on the broom, grinning like a man who had just finished a satisfying workout instead of committing wholesale slaughter. The remaining clones arrived, flickering into place like echoes of himself. Their expressions, identical grins, smeared in blood but utterly unbothered. One of them held up a hand. "Boss, cleanup's done. The Crucetti men are either dead, missing body parts, or gift-wrapped alive but traumatized, specially handed for the cops." Jack smirked. "Good. That should give Captain Stacy something interesting to wake up to." He then spun on his heel, stretching his arms. All right, boys, you know the drill. Divide and conquer. Pass out the protection papers to the homes and businesses in our new kingdom. The clones let out synchronized snickers before dispersing like shadows at dusk, leaping from rooftops and sprinting into alleyways. Jack watched them go. His gaze shifted toward the sky. The day had darkened into a hazy orange. Time to go home. Jack walked toward the main road, his black and gold Hanbok soaked with blood, looking like he had just escaped a war zone. A taxi rolled by. Jack lifted a hand, signaling it down. The cab screeched to a stop. The driver, an older man with a cigarette between his lips, didn't even bat an eye at Jack's appearance. He had driven through Hell's Kitchen long enough to know better than to ask questions. Jack hopped into the back seat, sighing dramatically as he leaned against the window. The driver, unfazed, glanced at him through the rearview mirror. "Where to, sir?" Jack let out a wistful sigh, placing a hand on the window, looking past the horizon as if he were in the final scene of a romantic drama. "Home," he said, voice deep, dramatic. "It's time for me to go home." The driver raised a brow. "I don't know where your home is." Jack blinked, then chuckled, scratching his head. Right, my bad." He handed the driver the address for his new house. The car rolled forward, merging into the night traffic of New York City. Jack leaned back, smirking. It had been one hell of a day. And tomorrow? Tomorrow would be even better. The mayor of New York stood at the podium, sweat beading at his forehead despite the cool night air. This press conference had been hastily thrown together. He hadn't even had time to prepare a proper speech. Because this wasn't his speech. This was Wilson Fisk's command, disguised as policy. The cameras clicked and flashed as reporters eagerly waited. The city was in chaos. 2 territories in Hell's Kitchen had been claimed in broad daylight. Crime lords were being wiped out like insects under a boot. And now, New York's mayor was here to set the narrative. He adjusted his tie, exhaled, then leaned into the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen of New York, I come before you tonight not just as your mayor, but as a concerned citizen. As a father. As a man who loves this great city and fears for what is happening within it." The reporters quieted. Some even nodded, already invested. The mayor continued, voice heavy with false sincerity. "Over the years, we have fought against crime. We have worked tirelessly alongside the NYPD, alongside community leaders, to ensure that the people of the city feel safe in their homes, in their neighborhoods. But tonight, that safety is under threat." A murmur rippled through the crowd. The mayor paused, allowing the tension to settle. Then, he pressed on. "A new force has emerged. A rogue element. A violent individual who has taken it upon himself to challenge the very fabric of our society. A terrorist who operates outside the law, who believes that through brute force, he can dictate the rules of this city." The reporters leaned forward. Some started furiously jotting down notes. "This man," the mayor continued, "has targeted not only criminals but also those who have worked tirelessly to improve New York. Individuals who have spent years investing in our communities, creating jobs, providing homes, and ensuring stability. One of those individuals is Wilson Fisk." A roar of mixed reactions erupted. Some reporters gasped. Others exchanged wary glances. They all knew what this meant. Fisk had long been a controversial figure. Some saw him as a ruthless businessman. Others as a savior of Hell's Kitchen. Now, the mayor was officially positioning him as a victim. A martyr. The mayor raised a hand, calling for silence. Mr. Fisk has faced many obstacles in his mission to better this city. He has fought against corruption, crime, and greed. And yet, he has done so without resorting to violence. The cameras flashed. The reporters whispered. They weren't sure whether to buy this or not. But the mayor? He pressed forward. Unfortunately, there are those who do not believe in progress. Who do not believe in law and order. Who seek to dismantle everything we have built for the sake of their own twisted ideals. Then, like a thunderclap, he pulled out a large sketch drawing. It was rough but accurate. A face that was already burning into the city's consciousness. Jack Ho. The mayor's expression hardened. This man is a criminal. This man is a danger to the people of New York. Then, he dropped the bomb. And as of tonight, there is an official bounty on his head. Miles away, in the comfort of his newly acquired home, Jack Ho watched the entire press conference unfold. He was sprawled across a ridiculously comfortable silk couch, a bowl of grapes on his lap, and his black and gold hanbok still faintly stained from earlier. His expression? Pure. Unfiltered. Amusement. Then, he threw his head back and laughed. Kick. He clutched his stomach, gasping for breath. I got a bounty. I'm like Monkey D. Luffy. He kicked his legs in excitement, still laughing. Oh man, I should have expected it, but seeing it actually happen? Priceless. Absolutely priceless. Jack rolled onto his side, grinning wildly as he popped a grape into his mouth. The TV screen flickered, still showing the mayor's face as he droned on. Jack waved at the screen mockingly. Hey, thanks for the free publicity, dumbass. I was wondering how to get more people to notice me. He bit into another grape. Then, his golden eyes gleamed with mischief. Well, looks like New York's about to get a whole lot more fun. In the morning, every channel, every station, every goddamn media outlet in America, the entire country was tuned in. Across New York, televisions in bars, apartments, offices, and subways played the same footage. The catalyst? Jack Ho. Or rather, his clones. The footage showed them, brazenly walking through the entrance of Mount Sinai Hospital, each one carrying an unconscious woman or child. Their bodies were in terrible condition. Malnourished. Bruised. Some barely clinging to life. It should have been a moment of horror. A moment that exposed the absolute filth rotting away in the heart of New York City. But instead, the media had a different focus. A news anchor for New York One, stiff in her posture, adjusted her papers before speaking. Breaking news: an unidentified criminal, responsible for multiple violent acts across Hell's Kitchen, has been spotted at Mount Sinai Hospital. Witnesses claim he and multiple individuals resembling him carried several women and young girls into the emergency ward, though the extent of their injuries remains unclear. Law enforcement has yet to make a statement, but sources suggest this could be related to the recent gangland massacres linked to this dangerous figure. The screen switched to a panel discussion, where a political commentator, a retired NYPD officer, and an expert on meta affairs argued over the implications. The commentator, a middle-aged woman with pearl earrings, pursed her lips. This is classic vigilantism. Who is this Jack Ho, and why does he think he can operate outside the law? The former officer leaned forward. This isn't just some vigilante. This is someone escalating gang wars to unprecedented levels. And let's not forget, Fisk himself was targeted. That's a dangerous precedent. The meta affairs expert adjusted his glasses. And there's something else here. His ability to duplicate himself? That suggests a high-level meta power. Possibly Omega level. We could be looking at another Brotherhood situation. The headline at the bottom of the screen flashed. Unknown metahuman menace takes over NYC. Is this the next Magneto? Cut to another station. Fox News was running with a different spin. Is Hell's Kitchen under attack by a mutant warlord? A host waved his hand dismissively at the screen. Look, I don't care what anyone says. This is why the Mutant Registration Act needs to be reconsidered. You're telling me some lunatic with magic powers is now deciding who lives and dies in New York? This isn't superheroism. This is terrorism. MSNBC had a more subtle take. A blonde anchor furrowed her brow. While the authorities investigate, one thing is clear: this situation is deeply concerning. The people of New York deserve safety, not chaos. Everywhere. Every station. The narrative was set. Jack Ho was a criminal. And the women and girls? Barely a footnote. But on the newly rising social media platform, Twitter, the people weren't buying it. At TruthOI, so let me get this straight. We have a human trafficking ring operating in the heart of NYC, but the media is mad at the guy who dropped off the victims at the hospital? How the hell does that make sense? 100k retweets, 350k likes. At Meta writes now, oh, so Jack Ho is the problem? Not the gangsters, not the human traffickers. But the guy who literally saved these women and girls? Y'all are insane. 90k retweets, 200k likes. At Citygirl is, are we just gonna ignore the fact that we're literally almost in 2010 and there's still a freaking human trafficking ring running under New York? 120k retweets, 500k likes. At Wilson Fisk Hate Club. Poor Mr. Fisk pleading face, he was just trying to launder money, move guns, and traffic people in peace, loudly crying face, why did the big bad handsome man ruin his day? So sad. 300k retweets, 800k likes. At Big Dick Vinny. The fact that people are unironically trying to paint Jack Ho as a terrorist while we have actual billionaires funding modern slavery is crazy. 150k retweets, 600k likes. Twitter was on fire. The hashtag who is Jack Ho started trending. People were beginning to question everything. The media's attempt to spin the story? Backfiring. Atop his new home, Jack Ho sat on the roof, his back against the curved tiles, watching the city wake up. A cool morning breeze rustled his hair. A clone sat beside him, lazily eating a stolen meat bun. So we're the villain now, huh? The clone mused. Jack grinned. Keek keek. Guess so. The clone waved a hand. You upset? Jack tilted his head, then snorted. Nah. This just means they're scared. The clone chuckled. So what now, boss? Jack leaned back, stretching his arms behind his head. Now. His golden eyes gleamed. Now, we give them a real reason to fear us. The clone grinned, tossing the meat bun into the air. Jack snatched it midair, took a bite, and laughed into the hopeful morning. But before Jack could finish his contemplation, reality itself wavered. A shimmering portal appeared before him, the golden-orange sparks illuminating the rooftop. The morning sun cast its gentle glow upon the figure stepping through. Yao, the sorcerer supreme. Jack and his clone, in perfect synchronization, greeted him like mischievous schoolboys. Good morning, Yao. Yao smiled, stepping fully into Jack's domain. His eyes flickered over the dark red-crimson hanfu Jack wore. You are stylish as ever. Jack grinned, running a hand down his sleeve. Well, I was contemplating a white hanbok, but I figured I'd be knee-deep in another bloodbath today, so I went with red. Can't stain red with another red, right? One of his clones leaned against a wooden pillar, smirking at Yao. And what about you, old man? You're afraid someone's gonna piss on you, so you wore yellow today. A moment of silence. Then, Yao burst into laughter. It had been a long time since he conversed with someone on equal footing. But before he could respond, another Jack clone delivered a swift slap to the back of the first one's head. You dumbass, that's not how you talk to a guest. You little. The two clones immediately descended into a bickering match, throwing playful slaps and arguing like children. Jack sighed, rubbing his temple. Oi, if you want to bicker, don't do it here. The clones turned, nodded, then vanished into thin air to settle their argument elsewhere. Yao watched, mildly amused. Is it wise to let them go like that? Jack shrugged. They're adults. Let them handle their own business. Jack gestured for Yao to follow him toward the gazebo. As they stepped in, Yao waved a hand, conjuring a low tea table with two delicate porcelain cups. Jack grinned, taking a seat. See, this is why I like you, Yao. You always bring tea. Yao chuckled as he poured them both a cup. The aroma of high-quality oolong filled the air. Jack took a sip, savoring the taste, then leaned back. So, what do you need from me? Yao set his cup down gently. I came to bring you news. Jack tilted his head. News? What news? If it's about me being a villain, you're late. The whole of New York already ran that story. Yao shook his head. No. This news comes from the gods of the dead. Jack's expression turned sharp. His golden eyes narrowed slightly. Which ones? He listed them off casually, as if discussing old acquaintances. Hades, Pluto, Anubis, Hell, Yama, Shinigami, Apuk, or even some other ones. Yao sighed, rubbing his temple. All of them. Jack's brows raised slightly. Well, that's new. Yao sipped his tea before continuing. They have heard your threat about not allowing the souls of human traffickers to rest. Jack leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. And Yao gave him a steady look. They want to make it clear to you, the realm of the dead is not your jurisdiction. It is not something for you to meddle in. They will not allow your threats to misguide them from their duty. For a moment, there was silence. Then, Jack laughed. Kik. He leaned back, resting his head on one hand. Man, they're so dramatic. I didn't threaten anyone. I merely gave them a suggestion. They've been poaching souls from our planet for eons. They should be thanking me for my input. Yao smiled knowingly. Still, I would advise you not to anger the gods further. They can be particular about their authority. Jack snorted, waving a hand dismissively. I do whatever I want. They're just glorified cosmic bureaucrats siphoning energy from our world like leeches. Yao shook his head, chuckling. You truly are a force of chaos. Jack grinned. And you wouldn't have it any other way. The two of them continued their tea, shifting the conversation to lighter topics. The morning sun rose higher, casting golden light over the quiet sanctuary of Jack's new home. For a brief moment, there was peace. But deep within the realms of the dead, the gods watched. And they were not amused. Two Jack-Ho clones stomped down a quiet street, their voices growing louder as they bickered like an old married couple. Why are you always on my goddamn nerves, man? One clone snapped, throwing his hands up in frustration. Because you still need to learn some damn manners. The other shot back. Yao is the sorcerer supreme. You don't go around cracking piss jokes at the guy who can send your ass into another dimension. Oh, so now you're a bootlicker? The first one sneered. Weren't you the same dumbass going around yesterday, yelling at everyone about the FU body arrangement? The second clone crossed his arms. Because your placement was off by at least 5 bodies. There's an artistic way to do it. Who the hell cares? The first clone scoffed. Kingpin still got the message. As long as he can read it from above, what's the problem? The second clone pinched the bridge of his nose. And what if we went with your placement and it read Puck Yaoi instead? You want to be the guy responsible for that. The first clone froze. Oh. The second clone smirked. Yeah, that's right. We almost declared our love for gay hockey manga to the entire criminal underworld. Good job, genius. The first clone turned red. Hey, I don't even like Yaoi. Sure you don't, the second clone said smugly. Then, they tackled each other. A full-on street fight broke out. Punches were thrown, legs kicked, heads smacked against pavement. A trash can got involved at some point. Until, the booming voice of Auntie Vivi stopped them cold. Auntie Vivi stood outside her store, arms crossed, an unmistakable look of disapproval on her face. Why the hell are you two bickering in the middle of the damn road? You're grown men. What are you, children? Both clones immediately stopped fighting, standing up and dusting themselves off like nothing happened. Morning, Auntie, one clone said sheepishly. It's a beautiful day, isn't it? The other added. Auntie Vivi stalked toward them. Don't you try that sweet-talking bullshit on me. Before they could react, she grabbed both clones by the ear and dragged them toward her store. Ow. Auntie. Sorry. Not my ear, Auntie Mercy. Auntie Vivi marched them straight into her shop, pulling them inside like a mother scolding her kids. She pointed at an empty section of the store near the wall. You two, face the damn wall. Now. The clones exchanged horrified glances. Auntie, please, and no backtalk. You stand there, and you think about what you did wrong. With defeated sighs, both clones trudged over to the corner and stood still, heads bowed in shame. Auntie Vivi shook her head, muttering to herself. Two fully grown men acting like goddamn 10-year-olds. Outside, life in Jack's territory carried on as usual. And inside, two of the world's deadliest clones stood, nose to the wall, serving their time under the absolute rule of Auntie Vivi. Last night inside Fisk Tower. The mood inside was suffocating. The penthouse conference room, lined with floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooked Hell's Kitchen like a throne above the city. A long obsidian-black table stretched across the room, occupied by the 5 remaining commanders of Wilson Fisk's empire. This was a war council. The air was thick with tension. Kingpin sat at the head of the table, a massive, looming figure of pure authority. At his side stood 2 of his most dangerous weapons, Bullseye, casually flipping a knife between his fingers, and Mary Walker, her cold blue eyes scanning the room like a predator studying prey. Normally, these meetings were routine. Reports, updates, discussions about profit margins, territorial disputes, and eliminating competition. But tonight was different. Because Marco Crucetti, one of their own, was dead, and the man responsible had declared war on them. Wilson Fisk steepled his fingers, his voice measured but filled with cold fury. Report. The first to speak was William Lopez, the enforcer. A mountain of a man, built like a brick wall, draped in a red tracksuit. Leader of the tracksuit mafia. His job was simple: violence. Extortion. Enforcing Fisk's will through brute force. He cleared his throat, voice deep and gravelly. Our men have doubled patrols. We're making sure every street, every alley, and every business knows we're in charge. Anyone who even thinks about switching sides gets a bullet. Fisk nodded slowly. Then his cold gaze shifted to the next commander, Anne-Marie Hogue. Unlike the others, she looked respectable. An older woman in a pristine gray business suit, her blonde hair tied back in a professional bun. But her sector, damage control, was one of Fisk's most insidious tools. I've already put pressure on the city council, she said with an air of complete control. Any business owner in Hell's Kitchen who refuses our protection will find themselves drowning in city violations, lawsuits, and property disputes. We'll drive them out until they have no choice but to sell their land to us. She sipped her wine as if she had just recited a weather report. Fisk barely reacted, moving to the next man. Cody Felon, leader of the Irish mob in Hell's Kitchen. A sleazy, grinning bastard in an expensive blue suit, leaning back in his chair like this was a poker game. His territory? The drug dens and brothels. Business is steady, he said with a casual smirk. We're pushing more product than ever. Our girls? Best in the city. Hell, even the NYPD is some of our best customers. Bullseye snorted in amusement. Mary Walker did not. Fisk's face remained unreadable. Next, Peter Stokes. A slick, snake-like man in his late 40s, wearing an expensive 3-piece suit and a politician's fake smile. Head of the Stokes crime family. His specialty? Controlling the narrative. Our media contacts are already spinning this Jack Ho situation. By morning, he'll be painted as a terrorist, a mutant menace, a radical extremist attacking our city's beloved philanthropist, Wilson Fisk. Fisk gave him a slow nod of approval. Then, the final man at the table. Michael Adams. A thin, bespectacled man who looked more like a doctor than a criminal. But his role was one of the darkest. He controlled the hospitals, the shelters, the charities. A man who wore the mask of a savior while profiting from suffering. We're keeping the hospitals running, but our operations are in danger. That lunatic Ho has completely shut down human trafficking. Our organ harvesting supply chain is already suffering. If this continues, we'll be forced to outsource to South America. Fisk's jaw tightened ever so slightly. That was the first real sign of emotion. Because this was a direct attack on his empire. His control of Hell's Kitchen had always relied on 2 things: fear and deception. And this Jack Ho was destroying both. Fisk slowly stood. His massive frame cast a shadow over the entire table. The room went completely silent. Even Bullseye and Mary Walker stopped what they were doing. Fisk placed his hands on the table, leaning forward slightly. His voice was soft, but filled with terrifying authority. We are under attack. No one dared to speak. This Jack Ho has proven himself to be a disruption, a threat to our operations. He has claimed territory that does not belong to him. He has challenged our rule. He has defied the natural order. His fists clenched. That will not be tolerated. Bullseye grinned. already sensing bloodshed on the horizon. Mary Walker tilted her head, intrigued. "Increase security," Fisk commanded. "No more mistakes. No more underestimating him. If Jack Ho wants war, then war he shall have." The commanders nodded, their fates now intertwined with this battle. Fisk turned to his two greatest weapons. Bullseye. The assassin cracked his neck. "Yeah, boss." "Hunt him." Bullseye grinned viciously. "Gladly." Fisk's gaze then settled on Mary Walker. The woman met his eyes, a silent understanding passing between them. Fisk's voice was cold. "Unleash the beast." For a moment, Mary didn't react. Then, her lips curled into a slow, eerie smile. "With pleasure." The room remained silent, but the war had begun. And in the shadows of Hell's Kitchen, the Kingpin had made his move. Back to the present. The punishment was over. Inside Auntie Vivi's store, two Jack Ho clones stood before her, hands sheepishly behind their backs like guilty schoolboys. Auntie Vivi sighed, crossing her arms. "Don't do it again." The clones nodded quickly. "We won't, Auntie." But then, one of them hesitated. "But, we're just clones," he muttered. "We're not the real Jack." Auntie Vivi's expression softened. She reached out, gently patting both their heads. "How can you say that?" she said quietly. "We're leaning on you. Jack can't be here all the time, so we'll be seeing each other more, won't we?" The clones blinked. "That means you're precious to us." A warm silence filled the room. Then, one of the clones grinned widely. "Ah, thanks, Auntie." Auntie Vivi smirked and shoved a large bag into their arms. "Here." The clones looked inside. Hanfu robes. Several colors. Black, crimson, white, deep blue, even one in dark purple to pink. One of the clones instinctively reached into his sleeve to pay, but Auntie Vivi held up her hand. "No need," she said firmly. "Take it." The other clone frowned. "Are you sure?" Auntie Vivi snorted. "Of course. Just make sure Jack wears them properly and doesn't act like a damn street thug while wearing such fine clothes." The clones laughed, nodding. Then, unnoticed by Auntie Vivi, one of them smoothly slipped a bundle of cash into her pocket before they left. As they walked through the streets, the clones were greeted warmly by the people. The once terrified business owners now welcomed them like family. From a small convenience store, Mario, the pizza shop owner, waved. "Oi, Jack. Wait." One of the clones turned, grinning. "What's up, Mario?" Mario held out a box. "Try this. New recipe." The clones accepted it, opening the box to reveal a freshly baked pizza, still steaming. They each grabbed a slice, taking big bites. Their eyes widened. "Holy shit, Mario. This is amazing," one clone said, mouth full. The other nodded enthusiastically. Mario smirked. "Secret ingredient." One clone raised an eyebrow. "What is it?" Mario grinned. "Monkey meat." The clones froze. A tense silence stretched between them. Then, both of them gasped dramatically. "You monster." Mario burst into laughter. The clones joined in, cackling as they took another bite. As they continued their walk, they passed the butcher shop. The butcher, an older man with strong arms and a thick mustache, waved at them. "Jack. Thank you again, truly." The clones stopped. "Oh? For what?" one asked. The butcher gestured toward his shop. "That protection paper? It's working wonders. No more rats. No more insects. The meat stays fresh longer. People are buying more. It's like magic." The clones exchanged glances, smirking. "Well, I did say it was magic," one said with a wink. The butcher laughed. "Whatever it is, it's a blessing." The clones gave him a casual salute and continued on their way. By now, the streets felt alive. This wasn't just a territory anymore. It was a home. They were almost back at Jack's house. One clone carried the Hanfu robes, ready to deliver them. The other was about to follow when whiz, a knife cut through the air, aimed directly at his eye. In a blur of motion, the clone raised two fingers, Clink. The blade stopped mere inches from his pupil, caught effortlessly. The other clone immediately leaped away, vanishing toward the house with the package. Now, only one clone remained. He twirled the knife between his fingers, casually inspecting it. He muttered. Good weight. Perfect balance. Razor-sharp edge. Pretty craftsmanship. He grinned, flipping it expertly in his hand before pointing it forward. Lemme guess, Bullseye. A man stepped out from the shadows. Dressed in a dark blue combat suit, a white target insignia emblazoned on his forehead, he exuded an aura of pure lethality. His cold eyes met Jack's with a predator's focus. Heard you were looking for trouble lately, Bullseye said, his voice calm, amused. Jack's clone grinned wider. Nah, but I do collect trophies. Bullseye cracked his neck. Funny. I do too. The tension in the air became suffocating. A silent agreement had been made. No more words were needed. This was a fight to the death. Jack spread his arms wide, presenting his prized possessions like a game show host revealing the grand prize. In front of him, on a polished wooden shelf, sat his small but growing collection. Iron Man's middle finger, Mark IV edition, slightly burnt, Daredevil's billy club, retrieved from an unguarded pocket, Wolverine's motorcycle, completely unpaid for. Jack turned dramatically to face Yao, the Ancient One, who sipped his tea calmly from the side. And that, Jack announced proudly, is my entire collection thus far. Small, but deeply meaningful. He paused, placing a hand over his chest. A testament to my dedication, my patience, and my ability to rob superheroes. Yao smiled, setting down his cup. An impressive collection, indeed. Jack grinned, rubbing his chin. I haven't paid taxes on any of it yet, though. Don't tell the IRS. Yao let out a soft chuckle, shaking his head. Jack stretched his arms, cracking his knuckles. Now then, he said, eyes twinkling mischievously. If we were to fight right now, what should I take from you? Yao raised an eyebrow. A bold question. Jack leaned forward, smirking. I dig your sling ring. Yao let out a knowing hum, tilting his head slightly. Is that so? Jack's smile widened, a manic excitement flickering behind his golden gaze. Yao calmly took another sip of his tea. And what would you wager in return? Jack pretended to think, rubbing his chin theatrically. My dignity? Oh wait, I lost that years ago. Yao chuckled. A charged silence filled the air, the playful banter melting into something more intense. Both men smiled, but their eyes sharpened, waiting for the other to make the first move. A fight between them would be a clash of experience versus madness, wisdom against unpredictability. Jack's hand slowly reached for his earring, until the sliding doors burst open, revealing a clone carrying a bundle of Hanfu robes from Auntie Vivi's shop. The clone bowed dramatically, then straightened, completely unfazed by the palpable tension in the room. Yo, mainbody, got some bad news. Jack sighed, rubbing his temples. I don't like bad news. The clone grinned. Then let's call it mildly inconvenient news. Jack gestured lazily. All right, hit me with it. The clone adjusted the bundle of robes under his arm before nonchalantly dropping the bomb. Bullseye's here. Hunting us. Also, there's like a lot more people out for your head. Jack's eyes gleamed with delight. Ah, they shouldn't have. The clone rolled his eyes. You say that like it's your birthday. Jack grinned. Every day is a gift when people want to kill me. The clone deadpanned. That's called a death threat, boss. Jack shrugged. Tomato, tomato. He turned to Yao, who remained perfectly calm. You knew this was gonna happen, didn't you? Jack accused, pointing a playful finger at the sorcerer. Yao smiled, standing up and dusting off his robes. Maybe. Jack narrowed his eyes. You sneaky bald bastard. Yao casually raised a hand, opening a shimmering golden portal behind him, the swirling light revealing the halls of Camartage. Jack crossed his arms. You running away? Yao chuckled. Let's just say our battle isn't destined for today. Jack pouted. TSK. And here I was, ready to add a sling ring to my collection. Yao stepped into the portal, pausing just before it closed. Perhaps next time, Monkey Sage. Then, with a flicker of golden light, he was gone. Jack clicked his tongue. Damn. He totally knew this was coming. The clone nodded sagely. Old man's got that protagonist foresight. Jack stretched, cracking his neck. Welp. No use crying over lost treasures. Let's go meet our guest. He grinned, eyes flashing dangerously. Bullseye, was it? Hope he doesn't mind if I play with him a bit. The clone snorted. Oh, he's gonna mind. Jack laughed, grabbing his staff and heading out the door. Jack's clone stood casually, arms folded, head tilted as he stared down his opponents. Come on now, the clone said, grinning. I know you didn't come all this way alone. Bring out your +1. No need to be shy. A figure stepped out from the shadows, a woman, hesitant, timid. Jack's golden eyes shimmered, peering into her soul. Her sins were there, but faint, acts done out of desperation, survival, not malice. Not a bad person. Just trapped. Bullseye clicked his tongue. Come on, let her take over. The woman flinched, fear flickering across her face. But then, her expression changed. The timidity drained from her eyes. Her lips curled into a slow, sultry smile. Her posture shifted, confidence oozing from her very presence. Jack's golden gaze burned brighter. Her soul changed. Not split. Not suppressed. But a completely different entity. The sin within her was different from before. Stronger. More indulgent. A separate existence. A lustful and violent one. Typhoid Mary. She licked her lips, eyes dancing with delight. Oh, handsome boy, I like you. Jack's clone narrowed his eyes. Well, this is new. Before he could react further, another presence arrived. Jack. The real one. The clone turned to him, bowing slightly before stepping back. Jack spoke to him, voice calm but sharp. Go patrol the area. Make sure everyone gets inside their homes. The clone nodded and vanished into the streets, carrying out his order. Now it was just Jack, Bullseye, and Typhoid Mary. Jack exhaled, rubbing his temple. I shared my vision with the clone. So what the hell is she? Typhoid cackled, stepping forward with deliberate sway. Oh darling, I can be whoever you want me to be. Jack ignored her, his golden gaze still locked onto her shifting soul. More people. One body. He sighed. Great. You got DLC personalities. Typhoid giggled, biting her lip. And you can clone yourself. Now I really want you in my bedroom. Jack snorted. Yeah, no thanks. Crazy bitches aren't my type. His eyes flashed with playful malice. I need a mommy type. Someone who can take care of me. And my clones. Typhoid pouted dramatically. Shame. I could be your worst nightmare. Jack shrugged. I already have student loans in my past life. Try harder. Bullseye stepped forward, irritation flickering in his eyes. Enough talking. He threw a knife. A perfect, calculated shot, aimed straight for Jack's forehead. Jack didn't flinch. Typhoid snapped her fingers. A telekinetic wave surged forward, hurling the blade off course. Jack raised an eyebrow. Oh? You two aren't exactly besties, huh? Typhoid smirked. He's not my type, either. Jack grinned, twirling his staff in his hand. Well, now I'm interested. Bullseye clicked his tongue. Jack wasn't taking this seriously. And that pissed him off. Typhoid wasn't much better. Her amusement barely concealed the frustration flickering in her heated gaze. Wilson Fisk sent them both under the assumption that a combination of long-range precision and telekinetic brutality would be enough to neutralize Jack Ho. But reality? It was one big, fat, glorious mistake. Because Jack wasn't just dodging them, he was playing with them. Not panicking. Not calculating. Just having fun. And that made him terrifying. Bullseye lunged first. A sleight of hand, a flick of his wrist. Knives, needles, coins, shattered glass. Anything he touched became a bullet, fired at speeds that no normal human could dodge. Jack tilted his head, golden eyes flashing as he effortlessly leaned out of the way, every movement precise, fluid, teasing. A razor-thin playing card sliced through the air. Jack bent backward, watching it pass an inch above his nose. A bullet from a concealed pistol screamed toward his skull. Jack simply turned his head, letting it pass harmlessly past his cheek. Too slow, bullseye. Jack sang, grinning like a maniac. Try throwing your dignity next. Maybe it'll actually land. Bullseye snarled, pulling out a handful of nails and flinging them like a shotgun blast. But then wham! Typhoid Mary seized control of the battlefield. A telekinetic wave erupted, twisting the very air. Jack felt his footing shift as the invisible force yanked him sideways. Bullseye's nails curved mid-air, redirected by Mary's power, forming a spiraling death trap. Jack clicked his tongue. Oh, working together now? Adorable. He let the force pull him, rotating midair like a gymnast, then FWP. His bare foot landed neatly atop the thrown nails, balancing effortlessly as if he were stepping on pebbles instead of flying death. Jack grinned down at them, hands in his sleeves like a lazy scholar. Gotta say, you two really know how to make a guy feel special. Typhoid grinned, voice sultry. Oh sugar, you haven't even seen what I can really do. She gestured, and the entire battlefield shifted. The street cracked as gravity itself twisted. Jack felt the pull, felt the way she was trying to collapse the area around him, crushing his movements, forcing him into a kill box. Bullseye took the opportunity. He threw a single needle. Just one. But it carried the force of a bullet. Jack's golden eyes gleamed. Now that's a throw. His staff snapped into his hand, spinning once before, tink. The needle struck the length of the staff and FWOSH. Jack redirected it mid-air, sending it flying straight back at Bullseye. Bullseye barely dodged, the needle slicing his cheek open. Typhoid Mary scowled. TCH. You're ruining the mood, sweetheart. Jack let out a breathy laugh. Oh, was this a date? Damn, I should have brought flowers. My bad. Then he twirled his staff, took a single step forward, and the world exploded into motion. Jack didn't dodge anymore. He danced. His movements were too fluid, too chaotic, too unpredictable to follow. He weaved through attacks like he belonged to a different plane of existence entirely. The air shimmers around him as he moves, his presence turning into a blur of impossible footwork, a flowing shadow, an untouchable specter. Bullseye threw. Mary crushed. But nothing landed. Jack laughed, spinning his staff with a playful rhythm. And then, he started singing. When marimba rhythms start to play, he sidestepped a psychic blast, tilting his head. Dance with me, make me sway, Bullseye gritted his teeth, launching a hailstorm of deadly projectiles. Jack twisted, flipping mid-air like a leaf in the wind, his feet barely touching the ground. Like a lazy ocean hugs the shore, Mary snarled, gripping the air, trying to force him still. Jack spun, twisting through the shifting gravity as if he were part of the storm itself. Hold me close, sway me more, boom. The ground shattered. Dust filled the air. For a moment, silence. Bullseye and Typhoid Mary stood still, panting, scanning the chaos they'd created. Then, from the dust, a low chuckle. Keek, Jack emerged, perfectly unharmed. His staff rested on his shoulders, his clothes somehow completely untouched, golden eyes shimmering with excitement. He rolled his neck, sighing dramatically. I'm not gonna lie, that was kind of fun. His smirk widened, wicked and teasing. But you two? Man, you two suck at working together. Typhoid Mary gritted her teeth. Bullseye scowled. Jack casually leaned on his staff. Wanna go again? Or should I start actually fighting back? Bullseye was breathing hard. Jack tilted his head, golden eyes glimmering like a predator who had already won. This fight? Over. And Bullseye knew it. His body ached from the repeated dodges. His mind scrambled from the sheer unpredictability of Jack's movements. But before he could even think about an escape plan, a blur of motion. Jack was already on him. Bullseye tried to react. His hands moved. Jack caught them. Both pinkies, pinched between Jack's fingers. No more of this. Rip. Bullseye screamed. The pain shot through his nerves like a white-hot wire being shoved into his skull. Jack leaped back, twirling the two detached pinky fingers like they were little trinkets. Then he grinned. "Sorry, bud. No more pinky promises for you." Bullseye clutched his hands, eyes wide with agony. Blood dripped freely, splattering the ground. But before he could even process the pain, a laugh. Low, twisted, sultry. A third voice. "Oh my, that was deliciously brutal." Bullseye snapped his head up. His stomach twisted. No. No, no, no. Not her. Not Bloody Mary. Typhoid Mary was gone. The trembling, unstable mess of a woman had been wiped clean. What stood in her place was something far worse. Metal trembled. The surrounding street signs, shattered car doors, even the manhole cover at their feet, all lifted into the air, forming jagged armor around her body. Her eyes burned with sadistic glee. Her grin stretched, full of sharp teeth. "That was manly of you, monkey boy." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Well, I am a handsome bastard." Bloody Mary laughed. Bullseye staggered backward, still clutching his bleeding hands. He knew this look. This wasn't just another of Mary's personalities. This was the worst of them. Sadistic. Brutal. Violently misandrist. She wasn't here to fight. She was here to maim. Jack looked at Bullseye, then at Bloody Mary, then back at Bullseye. "You should probably get going." Bullseye gritted his teeth. "Damn this. I'm out." Bloody Mary licked her lips. "Oh honey, leaving so soon?" Bullseye flinched. She had that look. That, "I will rip you apart just because I'm bored" look. Jack watched the interaction with mild amusement, spinning the two severed pinkies in his hand like a magician twirling coins. Then he plucked one of Bullseye's fallen knives from the ground, stabbed both fingers onto the blade, and held it up like a messed-up shish kebab. "Behold." He turned it slowly, like a piece of fine art. "I call this masterpiece. A broken promise." Then he giggled like a little girl. Bloody Mary smirked, stepping forward, her metal armor shifting with a creak. Jack grinned right back. "You're a real piece of work, huh?" "Oh, monkey boy. I'm just getting started." Then her eyes shimmered. A pulse of unseen energy. Jack felt it, like a whisper brushing against his mind. Soft. Sly. Slithering. It wasn't Xavier level. Not even close. Hell, it wasn't even enough to scratch the surface of his thoughts. Jack sighed. Then he blinked. Literally. One slow blink. The connection snapped. Bloody Mary stumbled, disoriented, her grip tightening. Her eyes flickered with confusion. What? Jack rolled his shoulders. Tisk, TSK, TSK. Mind games? That's cute. Then he moved. A blur. Before Bloody Mary could react, Jack was behind her. His hand gripped her throat. And then, slam. Her back hit a metal street pole, bending it on impact. She gasped, choking, her armored fingers clawing at his wrist. But Jack's grip didn't loosen. His eyes gleamed golden, his energy curling around her like unseen chains. For the first time, Bloody Mary felt it. Fear. Jack leaned in close, whispering against her ear. "I'm a feminist, so I get a pass on killing crazy bitches like you." Bloody Mary shuddered. That killing intent, it wasn't human. It was raw. Unfiltered. The kind of thing that didn't come from a man playing at war. It came from a man who had already bathed in blood. Who saw murder not as a crime, but as a solution. For the first time in her fragmented life, Bloody Mary felt powerless. Then, a flicker. A shimmer in her gaze. Her entire body shuddered. Jack felt the shift immediately. The murderous aura faded. The sadistic smirk disappeared. Her breathing changed. Gone was the monster. And in its place, a trembling, terrified woman. Mary. The real one. Jack paused. His grip loosened. Mary shook, her body trembling like a child lost in a nightmare. Her eyes darted wildly. Confused. Scared. Jack exhaled slowly, This wasn't the same person. Her soul, his golden gaze saw it. The one trapped underneath the weight of her own body. A prisoner. Jack clicked his tongue. He could have killed Bloody Mary. Hell, he could have wiped out Typhoid Mary too. But if he did, what would happen to her? Jack released his grip. Mary stumbled backward, gasping. Then, without a word, she turned and ran. Jack watched her disappear into the alley. His eyes darkened. TCH. Ain't my style to save broken things. But that girl. She's stuck. Jack exhaled through his nose. He needed to figure out a way to separate her. She wasn't the monster, but her body belonged to one. Jack rolled his shoulders, sighing. Guess I got another freaking errand to run. The city never sleeps. And neither does a man with unfinished business. Jack's territory was stirring. Not from any major force. Just low-level thugs, little rats scurrying around, trying to shake things up. Annoying. Not threatening. The clones handled them easily. A few cracked ribs, some dislocated shoulders, and suddenly the streets were calm again. Jack stood in the middle of it all, hands in his sleeves, whistling a nameless tune. One clone tightened the last knot on a bundle of defeated thugs, stacking them neatly like firewood. One of the gangsters groaned. Well, at least we still got our dignity, he sneered. Unlike you, attacking an innocent man just trying to make a life for himself. Jack froze. Then, slowly, his grin faded. His eyes flicked to the side. A few people on the sidewalks held up their phones, recording. It was 2009. Social media was just starting to boom. Facebook, Twitter, forums. People loved a scandal. Jack sighed, rolling his neck. Ah, so that's your little game. The thug smirked. Jack grinned back. All right then. Get your pants off. Silence. The thug blinked. What? Jack crossed his arms. You heard me. Drop him. No one's dragging you to the police station with your dignity intact. So either you go half naked, or I make sure you can't walk at all. Your choice, champ. The other thugs went pale. The man hesitated. Then, he saw Jack's eyes gleam, golden, sharp, predatory. That wasn't a request. It was a sentence. One by one, the gangsters reluctantly pulled down their pants. Jack clapped his hands together, beaming. That's the spirit. Now off we go. A clone grabbed the rope binding them together, dragging them toward the police station. Captain George. We got more gifts for ya. The street was dead silent. People stared. Then slowly, the bystanders went back to their day. This was Jack Ho's territory. And in Jack Ho's territory, you either played by the rules, or you got humiliated trying. A clone leaned against a wall, arms folded. He watched as the street slowly calmed, people returning to their routines. Then, a movement in the alley. His golden gaze flicked toward it. One thug had slipped away. Tisk, tisk. The clone vanished. In a blink, he was behind the fleeing man. A soft voice whispered in his ear. Hey! The thug yelped, spinning around, eyes wide in terror. The clone grinned. Don't worry, I know a way out. The thug hesitated. Then, slowly, he followed. The clone led him deeper into the alley, stopping beside a large, open manhole. See that hole? He pointed. The thug squinted, peering down. What about it? The clone's grin widened. It's your new apartment. Then he kicked him in. The thug barely had time to scream before disappearing into the darkness below. A loud splash echoed up. The clone dusted his hands off. Ha! Rent-free too. Then he walked away, whistling a happy tune. Because in Jack Ho's world, justice was always creative. 1 week. 1 full week of insanity. And Captain George Stacy was exhausted. He sat at his desk, rubbing his temples, as his precinct continued its daily madness. The latest headache? Jack Ho. Or as the media loved to call him now, the Golden Menace. Every single day, a group of criminals was mysteriously delivered to his station. Not just a handful, sometimes entire gangs, all neatly tied up like Christmas presents. And every damn time, Jack Ho was the one who sent them. Yet, somehow, the slippery bastard always managed to escape. George glanced at his officers, who were grumbling while sorting through mountains of paperwork. One of the P2 officers slammed a file on the desk. "Captain, I swear to God, if I have to process one more of Jack Ho's care packages, I'm gonna lose it." George sighed. "We should be clearing these thugs off the streets anyway. Stop complaining and get to work." The officer grumbled, but followed orders. This was the funny thing. Despite being officially labeled a criminal with a bounty on his head, Jack was making Hell's Kitchen safer than it had ever been. Even the night patrol officers admitted it. No more random muggings. No more bodies showing up in the alleys. People felt safer walking home, even past midnight. And the weirdest thing? The air smelled sweeter. At first, it was barely noticeable. But as days passed, an unmistakable scent of peaches lingered around Jack's territory. People began to call it the Golden Peach. "Hey, Captain." George groaned. He already knew what was coming. An officer burst into the room. He did it again. George looked up from his paperwork. Jack Ho. Yes. He just dropped off another 20 gangsters, then ran off before we could arrest him. George exhaled sharply. What was it this time? The officer cleared his throat, flipping through his notepad. As he ran off, he shouted, and I quote, "You can't arrest me. I pay my taxes. Unlike the IRS, which steals from us all." Silence. George rubbed his face. The officer continued. "Last time," he said, "if you arrest me, you have to arrest capitalism first. Before that, it was, catch me if you can. Oh wait, you can't." Another officer raised a hand. "Don't forget the time," he yelled. "I'm just a humble peach farmer spreading justice and vitamin C." George leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. This freaking guy. George was conflicted. Yes, Jack Ho was a criminal. Yes, he was officially a wanted man. Yes, he was making George's life absolute hell. But he was also undeniably making Hell's Kitchen safer. And that was something even the mayor couldn't ignore. George glanced at his desk drawer, where a photo of his daughter sat. She was starting high school soon. College was on the horizon, and the fund he had saved for her was still not enough. He needed this job. He needed to play by the rules. Even if those rules were being broken every damn day by a lunatic in a hanfu. "Sir," one of the officers said hesitantly, "what do we do about Jack Ho?" George sighed. "We do our jobs." "Which means?" George picked up his pen. "We process the thugs." A pause. The officers exchanged looks. Then, begrudgingly, they got back to work. Because whether they liked it or not, Jack Ho wasn't the biggest problem in Hell's Kitchen. He was just the loudest. And right now, they had real criminals to lock up. Jack laid on his silk-covered bed, fingers lazily scrolling through his phone, eyes flickering across the bright screen. For a week, he had done nothing. No territory claiming. No public executions of gangsters. No rampant chaos. Just Twitter. "Are you gonna laze around all night?" one of his clones asked, standing at the doorway with his arms crossed. Jack grunted in response, still fixated on his phone. "Aha." The clone glanced at the others before sighing. "Come on, man, we're in a whole new world, and you're just addicted to your phone." Jack snorted. "Hey, I lived like a monk for 7 years. Give me a break." He swiped through a thread labeled, "Top 10 Wilson Fisk Moments That Aged Like Milk." Besides, Jack continued, eyes flickering mischievously, "It really gets on Fisk's nerves to see me doing absolutely nothing. He's scrambling, trying to counter me, but what's there to counter? I haven't done shit this whole week. Keek. The clones looked at each other, then back at Jack. Finally, one of them muttered, "We really don't want to do this, but to hell with it." Jack paused mid-scroll. "Do what?" The clone took a deep breath and then whispered, "Wilson Fisk is probably gonna walk it off in a week." Silence. Jack didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't even breathe. Then slowly, like a machine rebooting, He put his phone down and sat up. No, he can't. His tone had changed. The laziness was gone. The playfulness had evaporated. The clone shrugged. You crippled his human trafficking ring, sure, but it's already been a week. He just replaced the supply chain from South America. Jack's face darkened. No. His hand tightened into a fist. No one walks it off in a week. Only I can do that. Without another word, he threw his phone behind him, not even caring where it landed. Then, he stood. The air in the room changed. The clones exchanged glances and smirked. They got him. Jack strode out of the bedroom, entering his living room where the massive map of Kingpin's empire was spread across the table. His golden gaze gleamed. We're taking two at the same time tonight. The clones grinned. Jack didn't want to waste time. Fisk thought he could adjust. Fisk thought he could recover. Fisk thought he had time. He didn't. Jack cracked his neck, then turned to one of his clones. Bring me the Crimson Hanfu. His voice was low, deadly, final. His clone bowed mockingly before vanishing. Jack walked toward the door, flexing his fingers. Wilson Fisk will fall before snow can touch New York. And tonight, another bloodbath would commence.
And that concludes this episode. If you enjoyed it, I'd seriously love it if you guys could leave a like on the video, as it genuinely helps out so much, and it keeps me going, plus it takes only 1 second. That said, have a wonderful day. See you in the next one.